It's not light here. There's no light. I got all the. Me with the busted shoulder. Yeah, it feels good now because I'm not using it. I'm totally playing with the screen here. Okay. Peace, Malik. All right. Oh, man. All right. Okay. How's everybody? How's everybody doing? 793rd. Peace. Oh, man. I left you all with a question last week. Last week's class is always crowded. It defies even COVID. Usually get a lot of students because, it's a show and prove weekend coming right up, But, I hope that when I'm actually in the physical classroom and I'm building and everybody online is quiet, I hope that you all are quiet and because it's useful. Maybe so I hope that it's useful, you know what I mean? But yeah. All right. Malik, you just had some tea and your stomach was a mess. Oh, you had ginger tea. The thing about tea is that so many teas are good diuretics, you know what I mean? Lemongrass is good too. And of course, any combination of ginger with something else. It's a lot of teas. And if you're not much of a tea drinker, sometimes green tea will do the trick. The more tea, the merrier. You made raw ginger tea? Is that what you made? That'll work. Yeah. You put a lot in it, it becomes strong. Okay. Sometimes not everybody, goes good with the ginger tea. You know what I mean? Sometimes you want to add something, or something else, right? Yeah. Yeah. So as we go along, I have a couple of questions I got thrown, and I thought it would be better to answer. Raw ginger and green tea. All right, make sure that your dosage is quality. Because I don't know what kind of ginger tea you had, but ginger comes excuse me, green tea comes in different intensities. You know what I mean? like if you have some gunpowder tea, that's going to be intense, you know. Uh, Green tea in the packets, you know, I like a more floral green tea. I like, that's why I always go for jasmine tea. But I have the gunpowder tea also, you know, at certain times. 7 9:30. Refresh my memory. Where was I supposed to stop by on Saturday? I mean, it's a show and prove weekend. I didn't come here to a law school of Mecca on Saturday. I did come briefly on Sunday. So, you know, I came. I was here at a law school of Mecca for show and prove on Sunday at around 2:30, and I may have left around 4. I may have left around 4. On my workouts, yeah. I put some clips. You know what I mean? I put some clips. My body's been broken down lately, so the clips I put up though, I am extremely broken down there. Like I could even move even faster or sharper and stuff. But just to show it out there, show the things that I could do, shit I could share. You know, I got a lot of right now. I got a lot of injuries, so I feel great, but I have specific nagging injuries. You know, um, that are stopping me from, you know, doing the usual high bench press I usually do or top speed in my sprints. You know, but at the same time, though, if you're able to persevere through it with the benching, it's not really the weight, you know. So if you're injured, it's okay to go to a lower weight, but just go to more intensity. I mean, you want to figure out the weight that you can manage, and then go for failure, really intense, so you still keep your strength up. You know? But yeah, I just put workouts out there. But yeah, green tea is good. Depending on how regularly you have it will depend on how much you can take and stuff. And raw ginger is good too, you know what I mean? But the green tea is a diuretic, so you may need to flush out and stuff, you know? Definitely. That's peace. Well, I wasn't there on Saturday, but I was there on Sunday. You know, I didn't go on Saturday. You know, for the last couple of years, I haven't really gone to show and prove weekend. You know, the whole weekend. And that's really honestly because my life is crazy. You know, right? Yeah, Gordon, Gordon Liu. Yeah. I got more of that. I got more of that Gordon Liu imitations. You know, when you learn martial arts, you try to have a style. You know what I mean? And I was taught a northern style, or no, in the northern, not northern, a northern style, in the northern style. So northern southern Charlotte. So I was taught in the northern style, and that's more of a leg oriented, off your feet, not very grounded, you know, style. You know what I mean? But as you get older, not just in age, really, it's not really an age thing only, but also in temperament, you realize that the fighting value is in the northern style, adhering to that as well, which is more grounded, more to the floor, more rooted like a tree, roots go into the ground. So Gordon Liu is always, you know, one that we used to always imitate, all of us. When I say used to, we still do, you know what I mean? Right? But every fighting style has to be rooted really well. So Gordon Liu's like one of the real masters in film, to to show that, you know. Yeah, I hear you, 793rd. Yeah, you know, I'm not good at slowing down though. You know, I don't really take breaks well or anything like that. You know what I mean? So, I always hit points where things break down and stuff. I always because I don't really take breaks. You know? So even if I take a break, I'm restructuring it, doing it, getting through the workout a different way. You know what I mean? So tomorrow, I'll be training anyway tomorrow. because I train Monday through Friday. Mm-hmm. Indeed, Reese. So I guess you're, piece of the God. I guess you're back in Seattle now. Yeah, it was great seeing you, though. Definitely. Mm-hmm. I saw you in some other video clips as well. You know what I mean? So I tried to keep up. You know what I mean? I tried to keep up. I'll tell you one thing, right? One thing that it had nothing to do with show and prove, but I take it very seriously, the idea of show and proving, like that ethos. P.E.A.C.E. That ethos of showing and proving. So my mindset for the show and prove weekend was like I was in the middle of doing stuff. You know what I mean? Like there's so many projects I'm working on that I spent show and prove weekend, not just spending time with my youngest daughter, but really trying to, and then that's a handful of stuff, but trying to restructure all of the things I have incubating so that they could come out faster and with the high quality that I want. So, instead of thinking about what I showed improved, I spent the weekend mainly thinking about how I'm going to show improve, all the things that I have for the rest of the year. It's good stuff. I have a strategy now. It's like Confucius said. Confucius said, don't get rid of the plan. You know what I mean? Don't get rid of the goal, the objectives of the plan, what you wanted. Restructure the plan, reconfigure it, figure out the emphasis and what its real impact is. And then you come to more of a conclusion. If the objective is and the goal is right and exact, then it's really about fixing that plan. There you go. Trying to get that right light that doesn't bother me. What happens too is that show and prove for me, if I go with my children, it's usually about taking them through what they want to see and do. You know what I'm saying? And I don't force them to do extra, whatever they want to do. That's what I was doing with my little one. If I go by myself, then it's about me, seeing who's there and everything like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So show and prove is always different depending on who I go with. Hey, Malik, China. Confucius is Chinese. part of that mentality of not switching or adjusting is also, it's personal, you know what I'm saying? But it's also a warrior mentality because, all right, I could take a day off from certain injuries, right? Or I could rework around them because in real life, if I got into something, I would have to work around them. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have the opportunity to just say, you know what, today's a rest day. You know what I mean? Let's not fight today. You know what I mean? Right? That will only work with people that are your normal enemies and stuff. And I don't have, I'm not out there regularly causing trouble. You know what I mean? So it would be random. So that's what we prepare for. Important book to read though. I think it's on the beginner book list, right, Malik? And it's crucial. It's called The Great Learning. This book is very, very short, but as you could tell by the title, though, it's very crucial to the mentality of pedagogy, education. You know what I mean? The way that we build. You know what I mean? Right? I see this take a book, leave a book here. Let's see. Ooh, I can see why none of these books are being taken. They're not very good. But that's what happens when you have these things. You know? You don't have. It takes a while for them to build up. You know? They got something nice here, right? Avengers. Oh, I might take this. I might be a little kid and take this. Look at this. I'm being a little kid. I'm gonna take home. I'm gonna take home this Avengers comic book from the Take a Book, Leave a Book. Of course, I don't have a book to leave, but I think I'm allowed to take a book here. I think I've left enough books with people over the years that I could borrow this. But I like that idea though. You know what I mean? You only see that in gentrified neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Where people actually care about literature anymore, or will do something like that. You know? But I like those type of ciphers though, because if you have books you don't like or you don't want anymore, like books let's say you don't have room and you're making a digital library and you'd rather have a digital library so you can have more room in your apartment. I think it's great to give away the books that you have. You know what I mean? Right? I think it's great. Other people can read them, and you know, and probably the comic books is probably the smallest thing in my collection because I don't really read comic books, and comic books don't really read well in small little phones. You know what I mean? But anything that opens up the palate has some potential. You know what I mean? The key is, though, in all the things that you digest, though, is the idea of what I like to call diminishing returns. You know, like something like a comic book might be really useful. You know what I'm saying? It might open up your creativity. But if that's all you were reading, you know, it certainly would have diminishing returns, though. You know? It certainly might not be as useful after a while. You know what I mean? All right, let me know what's out there. Quatis, you said understand those negative countless things be kicking. What calisthenics are you doing? I never get hurt. I don't really get hurt calisthenics though. You know what I mean? I usually get hurt doing some type of martial training, and then on the second side is um, weightlifting. You know what I mean? There's certain lifts that for some reason I try them with lightweight, not just heavyweight, but lightweight to try them, but they will injure me. You know what I mean? So I don't do them. You know what I mean? And for some reason they just can't. I can't do them because they'll cause injury. You know what I mean? What was inferred in making a devil in the 31st degree and the real devil in the 33rd degree? That's a good question. You know, um, well, off the head, right? This concept that a devil is just what was grafted physically is what's inferred by the 33rd degree. It isn't just the third degree. Now, I don't know. I don't know if I want to say that, to make devil, what must one first do? To make devil, one must first begin, grafting from the original. I don't know if there's anything that's inferred. That's kind of a direct statement. So it's not really, there's nothing inferred there, right? It's basically saying clear, like, how do you make a devil? Like, you make one, okay? That's how you make one, right? But that doesn't mean that all devils are just made. You know what I'm saying? That they're just made physically. So say, how would the person, someone outside, make it? They would do such and such, right? But then what is a real devil, though? Well, not all devils are made. Some of them are mentally drifted into that reality, right? Like by blood original man, a black seed, a brown seed, a yellow seed that does devilishment. You know what I mean? In other words, any man which is made weak and wicked. You know what I mean? So if any man is made weak and wicked, that the inference in the 33rd degree is the first part. Any man which is made weak and wicked. The second part, or any live grafted germ from the original is devil, is a reutterance, right, of the 31st degree. It's just repeating, basically. That's common in the way that Elijah Muhammad speaks. And he repeats a lot. You know what I mean? He repeats all the time, right? So he would certainly do that. However, when you have a man that is made weak and wicked, right? If he is made weak and wicked, any man which is made weak and wicked, the weakness is the key, right? It separates weak and wicked. We have to be weak. You have to be weak to the state of what? Then doing devilishment. So it's twofold. You cannot just be weak. You know what I'm saying? For example, let's say all the grafted devils, all the grafted germs, let's call them germs, not devils. All the grafted germs, they're weak. They're weak-blooded. They cannot really survive. They need help. They get help. They don't live too long. They don't have a great life. And end scene. Movie's over, right? They have to do something. They have to do wickedness. You know what I mean? They have to do wickedness, you know? So the thoughts are what compose devilishment. But again, wickedness is not a thought. Wickedness is the action. Okay, so there has to be. Now, the weakness that is imposed upon someone is something that causes weakness. The weakness that's imposed on someone. When someone is weaker and weaker, they cannot survive, so they would do whatever they can to survive. And then that is where the wickedness can very, very, very easily and expected by Yaku to creep in. He expected that to creep in. So he expected that you cannot make devilishment happen. But if you make an entire populace of people weak, they will become wicked. Now what happens is that because he makes a whole populace of it, then the probability of assuming that they would do some kind of devilishment increases because there are more of them, though, right? And so the chances of one of them engaging in wickedness, though, is increased. Then the chances of them doing devilishment, right, and becoming weak as a united front also becomes part of the fold, right? And that was the hard part of the future that he gave. The hard part of the future was that they would do devilishment and actually advance that. Here's the thing. The one hitch in that happened. They were exiled nearly immediately because they were so blatantly in opposition to what was there that they were exposed very quickly. So what happens? The one hitch to that, though, is Musa, right? Exiled 2,000 years later. You know what I mean? So even that hitch that could not be perfectly predicted was adjusted to, right? And if we look at that, wow, if we look at that, through history, if we look through history, technically, their weakness has, as far as leading into wickedness that oppresses us, that impacts us massively, has been stifled many times. And that's why different civilizations, successful civilizations of original people, have had to constantly regenerate their reality. And that's also something very interesting. Wow, Quartis, you do muscle ups. I'm pretty impressed with that. You know what I mean? I have achieved muscle ups, but I have nowhere to do muscle ups. I don't go to the park just to do a muscle up. So I pretty much suck at muscle ups, But anything that's shoulder derived can cause me troubles, you know what I mean? And a lot of that is over the years training on, I have taken lots of hits on the shoulders and stuff. This is where a lot of damage is, you know what I mean? As far as that goes, And I can't really do military press. So I could do pull-ups and stuff. But military presses, especially with dumbbells, it depends on the weight. I eventually will get injuries, especially to the outer deltoid, But consistent injuries, that's what I have now. It's an injury to the outer deltoid. It really bothers doing a lot of fun stuff. Well, if you guys miss me and show and prove, I'm here every Thursday now. So whenever you have a Thursday, if you're in this area, you can come here. Yeah, but definitely gripping the bar, Yeah. I haven't used the pull-up bar in a long time because my pull-up bar goes on the door, and in the house I live in, it would just really ruin it. So I can't put it up. I haven't figured out a way to get it up there. But yeah, if you do, that's the thing though. Technique is so important though. You look back though, most injuries are technique. Unless you're sparring and you just get hit. Reform, yes, I would have to say that that's what it would be. You know what I mean? To become civilized and honorable, with the ethos that would not, disparage society and cause trouble. That's peace, Malik. I probably asked this already, Malik, but have you knowledge 120? Because you always ask me questions about the 1 to 40. handstand, human flag, and sometimes I can only the body squats or burpees and stuff. Yeah. You know what's interesting? Yeah, I don't do any crazy calisthenic stuff like that. I do a lot of push-ups, but I find that the real gift is like overload and failures. So certain sets, it's the combination of things. Like I always do 100 push-ups after every bench press set. And the last bench press set is followed by 100, then to failure, right? If I do dips, well, before I do dips, I do dips before I work on triceps. So I do those till failure. Then I do triceps with resistance bands um, and dumbbells, right? Of many different weights, right? 30, 25, 10, right? And I just do all types of different triceps, right? For example, so it's about it works if you overload things. You know what I mean? When I do sprints, I'll do sprints. I'll do depending on the day. If it's a long day, it's 5 sprints. If it's a short day, it's just 3. But after every sprint, I do burpees after it. You know what I'm saying? And the burpees are a pain in the ass, but and they could cause injury because you get tired, start losing form and stuff. But if you use them as an overload, a few burpees will go a long way. So like after each of the 5 sprints, I'll do 5 burpees. That doesn't sound like a lot, but after you sprinted up a hill as hard as you could, right? And mind you, this is after strength training, weight training, and running 1 mile. So after each sprint, if I'm doing 5 burpees after that sprint without rest, then the rest is walking down the hill. They overload the body, so that overload of the body is very useful. You know what I mean? For me, that's what I find. Oh, okay. No, you didn't use a capital, so I didn't know you was. You said it's lasting reform of the devil possible. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Because are you talking about the mind? We've only like us as 5%ers though. We don't really go for that goal, right? We don't go for that goal. We teach. We neither pro-black nor anti-white, but we don't go for the goal of teaching the white masses though. That we don't. In fact, we don't go for the goal of teaching any of the masses as bulk. You know what I'm saying? That's why we say there's 5, 10, and 85. We concentrate on the individuals that show and prove themselves. So those figures of 5, 10, 85, or can you reform the devil? They're not really of concern to us because we're not giving out teachings to teach the bulk. The only bulk teaching that we give though is is the concepts of civilization and the creations that we share. It's really nothing else. So lasting reform of the devil possible? No, but the people that will take over, the very few out of the bunch, the 1 out of the 10, the 2 out of the 5, you know what I mean? They're the ones that can actually take over, be opinion leaders, people that cause change, people that actually do the work in their communities. I'm saying, like, let's say if there were whites and stuff, those are the people that would be the people that would be important. So it's not even reforming the devil as a macro, whole reality is not even a thing. In the micro level, that's what we do. We do with the individual, but we do kind of have that mentality with all things. Yeah, so reforming and 10th degree and the 1 to 14, obviously they're taking the devil's heads, you know what I mean? They're not trusting them, right? But how silly does that sound, like taking the devil's heads though, when like they're not, that's not the main problem. You know what I'm saying? That wouldn't be the main problem to obsess over. You know what I mean? The fight against the devil in the macro level is for more and more sovereignty to make our own decisions, but not to educate them, to change them. That you cannot change people through anything. That's why we deal with the children, right? Quartis, I don't know how many push-ups I get because when I say failure, I lose count. That's the thing about push-ups. I have good form. I go a long time, but because I could do so many, I really count very badly. So I count as best as I can to 100, and then just keep going. So there's about that would be 3 sets. The last one is to failure. So I don't know how many. That's at least 300. And then when I leave, when I finish kung fu training, I do a set to failure before I leave. So that's at least another 100. So that's 400. You know what I mean? And then the dips is about same thing because I can do 200 dips very easily. So those always go to failure. So it's 200 to failure. So I used to have more push-up sets in the routine, but the problem is I really suck at counting though. My mind drifts. I listen a lot to the music I'm listening to. You know what I mean? So I drift, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that's what happens though, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's just great because I have a mile to the fort that I train at. I do those hills. I do those hill sprints, and at the top of the hill, I have a nice space. That's where I make all the videos to train. You know what I mean? And I do sprints 3 days a week, and then in between those, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, and Thursday, I do jump rope hit training with jump rope. You know, just to switch it up and stuff because intense running like that will batter up your body. You know, but because I live a mile away from the training ground, it's always 2 miles of running every day. Might as well run. Why walk? You know what I mean? I might as well run it there. Less time, faster, and you get the training. You know what I mean? But I don't know how many push-ups I can do in a row. You know, even with my injury, the pain would probably make me stop because I'm not feeling anything but pain. But if I didn't have the injury, I get bored. I literally get bored of counting. I count terrible. You know what I mean? I count really bad. You know what I mean? Oh, that's peace, Billy. You know, yeah. So the Elijah vernacular is something to take hold of. If you don't get it well from the books either, reading Elijah's books, look up some speeches and stuff about him and stuff. You know what I mean? And I don't advocate going to listen to Farrakhan all the time, but Farrakhan has the same type of vernacular. So old Farrakhan speeches might be useful too. To capture that. Okay, reading his books now, right. And you get the sense of his vernacular because he's real repetitive. You know what I mean? So you'll definitely get a handle on it. Just message to the black man itself is repetitive. You know. Asiatic Saba mathematics piece. Let me go into my notes though, because there were some questions I wanted to answer. Somebody had asked the questions. They aren't online, but I told them, I gave them this link so they can check these answers some other time. You know what I mean? But real quick, I just take a moment here as I read Quatis's comment here. Last week before the class ended, I asked, what have you shown improvement? Like, what has been your progress and stuff? The last year. You know what I mean? Have you been consistent? Have you found a new direction in what your work will be? All these things. Because all these things change. Quatis history, both immediate and ancient. My genetic makeup, for instance, are aspects of awareness that help me to see how I can improve myself and inspire areas of creation. I like this degree because it seems to deal with both the essence or truth of self as well as the appearance. I'm assuming you talk about today's degree. Yeah, if you're reading How to Eat to Live, Malik, be careful with How to Eat to Live. You don't want to be eating navy beans all day. I always laughed at that way. It's like, I can eat navy beans all day. But the real jewel of How to Eat to Live, though, is this idea that you don't need to always eat. And when you do eat, over the years, what's been most important for me is that when you do eat, to make sure that you eat calm, not rushed. You know what I'm saying? So you let the body digest the food. You let it be enjoyed. You know what I mean? Oh, yes. I knew I forgot something. I knew you. And I told you I would answer them, Knowledge Allah, right? I think I told you I would answer them during the class. I got some questions on Instagram that were good. Oh, yeah. This is a good question about conditioning, right? No, yes. I love beans, man. You know what I'm saying? I come from a Puerto Rican household. I've eaten more beans than anything. And I love it. But, like the idea of mono dieting is not good. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. Okay, Quincy. Yeah, get it all together and then we'll read it again. Okay. But yeah, Knowledge Allah, I got these questions about conditioning from you. And they kind of go with the idea of teaching the grafted. So I'm going to answer them now. A really good question. But all right. Let's go back. All right. All right, Quatis, I see you writing in there. Let me answer this question that Knowledge Allah. He said, how do you see conditioning? I'm speaking in the sense of conditioning a person or people. Can the lack of teaching conditioning also inadvertently be a form of education? Also, can an individual be conditioned in various degrees? I think the last question is the answer. I think that people, when I tell you when I tell the students that come into this classroom, you may have heard it the last couple of sessions, the 3 things that I tell them. And what I'm doing to them is to take note that they're always being conditioned, because the body is always the mind is always developing an efficient way to absorb these millions and millions of stimuli and bits of information that can be knowledge and can be used. You know what I mean? So we are always in a way open to conditioning, because there's so many amounts of information that we are trying to format it. The truth is that the way society works, so it manipulates and formats it for us by putting things to the front, advocating for a certain thing, and grouping things for us. You know what I mean? That's why you see, like, for example, musicians, they often go, I'm not of any genre. I'm talking about good musicians, not like shitty artists that can't rap. And then they go, I'm not an MC anyway. I'm an entertainer. No, not those kind. I mean, people like a Miles Davis or things like that. They don't like they stop liking the labels of jazz, or the labeling of a genre, or even like Miles didn't like the naming of even songs. A lot of that is because they're recognizing the conditioning that is not actually helping them. You know what I mean? And anything is conditioned. You condition yourself because you go outside. And that's why I say there's too much information. So you're always with a perspective. Your perspective is the beginning of the conditioning. It's always happening. So the thing is to always condition yourself well. Just like when you train, you're conditioning your body to be ready for certain situations. You know what I mean? You either condition it well, you could, or not. So something is always being developed. That's why I say you're always learning something, whether you voluntarily want to or not. So a lot of work ought to be done also in being aware of what you were doing the knowledge to, and aware of what is being remembered or not remembered. This is alluding to the truth of one of this question here, that conditioning is very real, right? So when we talk about conditioning, I would say, and as far as the masses, they can be conditioned in certain ways to see certain things, but they ought not to be, okay? The way I see things, like a utopia, an ideal state, is that people are not living all connected this way, that there is a strong local essence to the reality, right? A strong local reality. And if that is lost, right? If that local reality is lost, then whatever connections we have, like through this internet and all that kind of stuff in the macro reality, will be lost. You know what I mean? I liken it to like food. You know what I mean? All of the monocropping will soon destroy things, but it's the local reality of certain things that really give it value. Culture is greater achieved at greater heights, though, always when it's local. Once it becomes set for the masses, it has to tamper down. It has to make it easier for more people. It becomes more diluted. You know what I mean? So all of these things are forms of conditioning. They end up becoming supposedly necessary, but I do not think that they are. You know what I mean? And I think that we all ought to always challenge them. You know what I mean? Right? I hope that answers the question. I don't think that, I think that everything is conditioning. I think that when we have mathematics and we teach mathematics, we are conditioning. You know what I mean? We are conditioning because we're giving such complex concepts, you know, into a simple reality. You know what I mean? And that can also cause problems. You know what I mean? Right? Let me see what we have here in that question. But yeah, I hope that begins to answer it. I think a lack of teaching opens you up to be conditioned. You know what I'm saying? Um, I don't think it conditions, because a conditioning always has a consistency. You know? Let's see. Quatis, you said knowledge God all being born to build. The study knowledge of self, God, and the attributes that shape one's development. Build. Interesting, called development build. Okay, so like we're always in the build. It's good, good. Basically, basically functional literacy, or the observation of the materials gathered that improve oneself. and how they can be used to create a unique reality. Hmm. History, both immediate and ancient. My genetic makeup, for instance, are aspects of awareness that help me to see how I can improve myself and inspire areas of creation. I like this degree because it seems to deal with both the appearance, both the essence or truth of self as well as the appearance. Hmm. Yeah, I see it. That's good philosophizing on that. I like that last sentence where you really, think about that. You know what I mean? But the study of self and the attributes that shape one's development, right? Or the study of self is, right, the shaping of one's development, right? Good build, good build. Asiatic Saba, you said, what's the best type of bread to eat, if any? I do eat a bread. I eat Ezekiel bread. I eat a flourless bread. I've been eating that flourless bread for over 20 years. Let me show you a link. Flourless sprouted grain bread. And I can say over the years, it has been very useful to me. It's the only bread my youngest daughter will eat. I've conditioned her to love that bread. So definitely a lot of benefits. So there is a bread. All right. Also, as vegan, what's the best source of B12 and omega-3 since there are good neurological purposes? Well, Malik has a good answer. Flax seeds, nutritional yeast is great for B12. He also mentioned Ezekiel bread is great. Oh, look, I even read it. I love Ezekiel bread. Now, B12, tempeh. I eat tempeh all the time. Tempeh is good. Some of the legumes, but legumes should be very diverse in your diet. You know what I mean? Said the nutritional yeast, that'll do it. You know what I mean? As far as the omega-3s, they do make, if you want to get them directly, they do make vegan omega-3 pills because they make them from the actual kelp, I think it is. The actual seaweed that the actual fish are getting their omega-3s from. Right? All right. Now it's like we're building a condition. It makes me think of part of your build last week. Within the culture of the 5%, there's a uniform way of speaking, doing, but people get trapped in the rhetoric. That's what happens, with anything. It doesn't matter if it's true or false. You know what I mean? Yeah, they give a reasoning why they call it Ezekiel Asiatic Sabbath. You know, check that out. You know what I mean? Any health food store will have it. And it's a bread that you have to refrigerate because it will. It's a very living food. It'll get rotten quickly. Knowledge Allah said, like how I said, people build on power. Everyone says power is the truth. So the question is, how does one hold on to culture while best creating from it without being stagnated? That would be a question, wouldn't it? Yes. Mm-hmm. Chia seeds, obviously, that's flax seeds. You know what I mean? But I think this: if you have a diverse diet, if you just have add as many uh, grains, quality grains, whole grains, um, you know, vegetables, green leafy vegetables, fruits, uh, the nuts and the seeds. If you add all these things into your diet consistently, you'll get all the nutrients you need. You know what I mean? Then you can experiment with others. You know what I mean? To see if it's making a difference. You know. But they do make a vegan omega-3 pills. You know? There was only I don't I actually, not that it's negative or anything. I actually haven't supplemented anything. You know what I mean? You know, not because it's violently wrong, but because I haven't. You know what I mean? Um, but there are a lot of vegan omega-3 pills out there now. You know what I mean? Because now they get it from the algae, as opposed to the fish, the cold water fish. You know, and now there are multiple brands. You know? Okay. I have no problem with sea moss. Sea moss is great. You know, it's great. You know, the more you use it, the more you see the effect. I don't really use sea moss either, though, and again, it's only because I keep things very simple. You know what I mean? I haven't splurged on massive supplementation or anything like that. You know what I mean? A lot of times I don't even use a protein powder. You know what I'm saying? And just have a small meal. You know what I'm saying? Usually my meals 2 a day, and they consist in the life. They're basically a pre-workout meal in the morning. You know, post-workout meal after. You know, if I train early in the morning, it's no meal, fasted workout, small post-workout meal, and then some dinner. You know, that's P.E.A.C.E, Quartis. But it's good build. It's good build. Let me go through some of these questions that I was asked. That way I could say they were in here. That I was asked in the IG. I said I'd answer them here. Somebody had DM me, said, I have a few questions in my mind I wanted to ask someone from the nation. What is your views on integration assimilation? I feel like we are about integration. We integrate with the best parts of society. We interact with society. Um, and the truth is we're forcefully integrated. You know what I mean? Come on. Let's not act all militant like we're not integrated in this shit. You know? So there's an answer to that. As far as assimilation is different. We don't deal with assimilation because we're not adhering to the society's mentalities. You know, we're integrated in amongst them, but we're not assimilating their views. You know what I mean? All the views that we assimilate or incorporate within us, and value are those that we agree with, that we show and prove to be right and exact. So it's not assimilation is totally different. Assimilation means you give up your values for the values of the society you're embedding yourself in, and we're not doing that. Can a white cursed person become God if he joined a nation? He wasn't God before, so he can't be God after. The white man isn't God, so no collective of individuals can make him that. You know what I mean? The original man is God, right? So how can someone that's not original be God? Everyone that seems to be, ethnicities that are awkward, mixed, and things like that that people don't know much about. It's always up to them to show and prove their reality, their genetic and their genetic connections to the original people. No, if a person's a white person, Caucasian, they're not, right? What should, and I'm assuming as a nation, what should we do about Black LGBT community? I don't know what we're supposed to do. We've, before they became a collective of famous choice takers, we were already a nation that was letting people take choices that we agree or disagree with. You know what I mean? This is not in our nation, and people that deal with a lot of stuff that is really ill-defined, totally ill-defined, absolutely ill-defined, and just basically a pontification and it's almost like extending the hippie years for a lot of the young millennial generation to make terms like pansexual, like you just fall in love with whatever, you know what I mean? It's corny, you know what I mean? It's corny, you hear terms for everything though. They love learning, so they're sapiosexual though, but it's never true. You know what I'm saying? It's never true. These are just terms, They're terms that people make up because they want endless freedom. So they want the endless freedom to continue to switch up. When things become bogged down, trust me, they will switch up. I'll tell you something, LGBTQ, if all of these different titles came with the same responsibility as eventual mothers and fathers, absolutely in every single relationship, they would not be having all these names. They would figure out what they were going to do and have less names. There are people that are going to be that naturally. There are people that truly, truly are that in mentality, right? But because we're such in a cancel culture, and the cancel culture is very derived by the over intellectualization of categorization. I'm in this category. I am this. I am that. Define myself as this. I call myself that. You know what I mean? Instead of getting the knowledge of self, they just call themselves something. That's not knowledge of self. You know what I mean? So it's literally a mutation of what gods and earths brought to the world. Mainstream of the world. They mutated it for a simpler version of freedom. So they're stuck in the freedom part, not in the culture part of that fourth degree. What do we do about people like that? I think it's disrespectful to say that we're supposed to be doing something to people that make their own decisions. These are decisions made by people that are old enough to have relations. That's where I would say where we don't have a responsibility. If they decide to do that, that's fine. They'll do whatever they want to do. We would hope that they would do things with sincerity and no exact reasoning, right? But the truth is that people are dealing with trauma of rape, of assault, of all types of, abuse. And what they do is, what we're seeing though, is that they adapt to it and then compose an identity that allows them to deal with it. And it's not really dealing with any of that. You know what I mean? Calling yourself something after you were made to be something is very different. You know what I mean? Very different. And you see that it's a lot of it is a made reality because they're very comfortable with advocating that the children be given these choices, which is highly ridiculous. You know what I mean? Right? And we're not even there for a conversation to talk about the destruction of foods and the massive amount of chemicals that are made every single day, labeled natural, labeled artificial, of all different types of combinations. They're anything but real, as far as real nature made, that are corrupting, modifying, and also genetically altering the actual state. And where studies where I could show you easily, what's the book? Let me find the book. It's in my head, so I just want to throw it out there because people hear this stuff like, damn him, I can't believe he's talking like that, and all that kind of shit. Yeah, formerly known as food. There's a book called Formerly Known as Food that talks about these studies that they actually alter the mindset, right, of the actual rats when they're being fed certain things. You know what I mean? So they have the gender of a male, but be a female, or the opposite, and they'll be totally useless in the procreation if they advocate. You know what I mean? These things are happening. You know what I mean? And when things happen, we can say, "Oh, I'm behaving such a way." Well, are we normalizing the behavior, or are we saying what is causing me to have this kind of behavior? What outside forces are affecting me to make me have this behavior? We're taking in all these chemicals, all these wrong things, all of these wrong ideas, all of these lies, all of this oppression. And what we do is that we normalize it by coming up with a definition of what we are. That's not knowledge of self. You know what I mean? What are we supposed to do about those people? We don't do anything. We don't do anything. We teach the babies. You know? We teach the babies. You said you also wanted to ask about the rise in metal music culture among Black youth and attraction towards horror, gore, and sadism themes, death culture of that genre. I think it's what I see. I don't see it that way. This society produces the type of angst and frustration that was produced by the whites for white kids in the suburbs also touched down for original people too, because even though they're in the ghetto, they're not living the type of ghetto life. Let's say if they have to go out and do crime, that's one thing. But generally, more and more of our people, more of our Black and brown original people are in ghetto environments where they're staying to themselves, staying inside, stuck on social media, at the whims of that. You know what I mean? And the metal music culture, or those concepts like that, they're consistent with that. You know what I mean? You give people the same reality, they often produce the same culture. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say about that. Also, add in that for too many people, even though this is a life's work for me, in the music I talk about with great love, hip hop as an active culture is not really advocated enough. To create your own thoughts in rhyme, to express yourself originally in dance, to study the music of the ages of yesteryear and try to renew it into new compositions, and or learn your own instruments. To not just take art as a form of defiance and way of showing yourselves, but also to make art. We talk about graffiti writers and they throw things on walls, but they also spent a lot of their time drawing, creating, practicing, so that way when they get to that wall, it's actually good. Like people think like, oh, look, the practice is not on the wall. The practice was alone. So we don't have our youth don't have a culture like that. It's there. Hip hop is still there, but it's not being given to them. So examples, and that's just an example. It doesn't have to be hip hop, but it's the ideal example. You know what I mean? And people will take on the culture that reflects the way the limited or unlimited ways that they're able to create. You know, and a lot of the angst and frustration that they feel is like a lot of the reality that is expressed in metal music. So it makes perfect sense. You know, it makes perfect sense. And I hope those answer those questions that were thrown out to me. You know, I thought they were a useful question. Uh, Useful answers. Quatis, I would say over this time I've shown to have consistent development. I would say so, and that'd be an understatement, Quatis. My reading has gotten better. My awareness of particular subjects improved. That's peace. The area of creation is yet to be manifested, but a constant thought. As far as you acting, and so I consider acting a very creative output. You know, my twin brother's an actor. Knowing him my whole life, though, and coming from a point of disrespect of it to a point of massive appreciation for it, I've learned. You know what I mean? I learned a lot about it. So, you know what I mean? It's absolutely a creative venture. So, you are creative. Malik, you asked, how do you make the measurements of the planets apply to self? I don't really try. Peace. I don't really try. You know what I'm saying? I study them. I look at the actual solar facts more as a springboard into the study that could make that information more useful with more information. Because I find, like, say, solar facts kind of limiting. You know what I mean? But it should take us into the sciences of cosmology. Uh, it should take us to the sciences of astrology in more detail. You know what I mean? And really understanding the ancients as well, or maybe ancient Kemet and so on. You know, right? But I don't force it. You know what I'm saying? The best way to deal with degrees is not to force and understand, but just try to learn more. And these are distances from the planet, but try to learn. If you learn, what could we learn about the galaxy? What could we learn about the cosmology of it all? What could we learn about the nature of what's our relationship? Because we're in space too. We're just on this particular planet in space, right? So all of these things are where it leads to me. You know? Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not going to blow them up or anything like that. But there are people that ask me for the knowledge, and I teach them the knowledge, and I tell them what we deal with, and I show them the knowledge, and they deal with lifestyles that I don't agree with at all. As far as that, you know what I mean? Even in hip hop, I cover artists, very rare, that might have lifestyles that I don't agree with on that level. You know what I'm saying? And I liken it to this because most lifestyles in hip hop, for example, I don't agree with. So as a journalist, though, it's really about the quality of the music and if the music is really worthwhile as far as saying something of relevance, being real, and all of that. And in those situations, though, certain people that are of that community, um, they are sincere with it. You know, not gonna deny that they made those choices. But others, though, it seems very convenient. Like it's more of a convenient lifestyle, or uh, a logical conclusion. You know what I mean? One that makes things easier as opposed to the difficulties of a man-woman relationship or having that. You know what I'm saying? And I wonder, and I ask these students if they question this. You know what I mean? You know. Again, a lot of us has defined revolution as doing something different, and there's a mistake. You know what I'm saying? All the revolutions that happen are trying to do the same thing, freedom. So revolution is not something you do that has to be inherently different, although the means have to be different, but the lifestyle is not. You know? I'm not sure about that question. Is there a flag that exists now I don't know what that means. It's the only flag we know about, right? The universal flag is this one. P.E.A.C.E gun. These P.E.A.C.E gun. That has a sword that reminds them. Nah, I mean, no, I don't think so. That's only in the Masonic sectors and stuff. There's an actual flag and shit like that.
What y'all building on?
I'm getting a load of questions, all different types of shit. You know what I mean? But Malik just asked, is there a flag that exists now that has a sword that reminds them? I mean, most Masonic flags still have the sword above the head. You know what I mean?
Shriners.
Yeah, the Shriners, that never changed. Yeah, the Shriners flags that never changed. There's nothing new. You know what I'm saying? Right. We just question what they're being reminded of, right? Are they being reminded? Fuck knows. You know, we could always argue that does a Shriner know what their flag means on that level? You know what I mean?
You know what's wild? I seen a clip of Farrakhan on, back in the late 80s, early 90s, he was doing all the TV show, talk show runs and all that. And they was talking about typical black versus white shit and all that. But one of the ladies was like, oh, what can we do to get our education taught the correct way, our history taught the correct way in school? And one of the things Farrakhan said, he was like, a lot of y'all grandfathers and great-greats or whatever are Masons and Shriners. And the shit that they teach them pretty much is that our history, black man is God, and we was here and build civilization and all that prior to, what they taught us in school. You know what I'm saying? I was surprised he actually said that on national TV.
You want to come in my classroom? Can you sit down? Yeah.
Yes, God. I just want to know if you want me to keep this door open.
No, you can close it. Yeah.
Word, that was good.
No much, God. How you doing, man? It's good to see you, man. For real, yo.
You just came in or you came in?
Yeah, came in.
I know you see, man. Trust me, you probably don't remember that.
I was just so
around
the entrance was, I haven't been here in a while, man.
What's your name, brother?
Son of Mar.
Son of Mar?
Son of Mar.
Son of Mar.
Mm-hmm.
Have I met you before?
Nah, I haven't had the pleasure, but I watched your class on YouTube,
That's
definitely, man. I commented a couple of times, but you know what I'm saying, as you was building, what I'm saying?
Okay.
Tell me where you from.
Oh, I'm from Black Medina.
He visiting out here.
Black Medina, where is that? I always forget.
Boston.
Oh, wow. You're from Boston, right?
Hey, man. That's that accent, man. You don't say car, we say car.
So would you be a Bani out there? You're a Bani? Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm just throwing Goodwill Hunting.
Oh yeah, that movie.
Yeah, the white folk are rough out there, man.
Yeah, man. Oh yeah, it's a Irish town, man.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Them dudes, man, Southeast, man, them dudes bad, man.
Yeah, that.
Oh man.
But that's peace, though. So you here for a certain amount of time? Or?
Yeah, no, I came here, you know what I'm saying? I wanted to come and check out your class, you know what I'm saying?
That's
And
peace,
you know,
that's peace.
I keep, you know, I talked to Kasim, you know what I'm saying, we're building and stuff like that, and you know, I'm here for on vacation, also learning and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
How long you had the knowledge?
I would say since knowledge born, I would say.
Okay.
Of the knowledge month. That's when I started.
Okay. You got it out there? You like somebody's taking you through it out there?
Yeah. My educator is Keynesiatic a lot.
Oh, okay. All right. Everybody learning out there is.
I know.
Yeah. What a stupid question. And this class is over. Fucking question. Everybody out there is rooted.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? He really set it down.
Sure did.
Oh, yeah.
So you know the guy now La CDK, you know,
Yeah.
SDNAC and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys be building them. People we see in the SDNAC savage out and he dancing in the videos and shit. They figure he not teaching and shit. You're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, 8 years old.
I'll be doing this thing, man.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. You know, it sets a reality. Like, you know, like a lot of the questions on online. I'm gonna read your stuff, Quatis, right? About conditioning. The guy knowledge a lot. He was asked about conditioning and stuff. You know, and I was telling that everybody, we're all conditioned. You know what I'm saying? Everything is conditioned. Everything. You know what I'm saying? Think about it though, right? When you make and grow something from the beginning, you're conditioning. What I mean by condition is that when you let it go, it continues to be that. You know what I'm saying? When we create things, they continue to be as is in some kind of way.
Mhm.
No matter what. When we have children though, we teach them a certain way because there are some things that we know, let's keep it as real as possible, have to continue that way.
Mm-hmm.
Even as we let go.
True.
You know what I'm saying? That's conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So when we constantly recondition ourselves, just like conditioning in the weight room, in the training, it's the same thing. So the conditioning is something that we take command of when we get knowledge of self.
Absolutely.
So we say, look, I'm the true and living God. I am causing all this. So I am, what I would say, the creator in my own creation.
Mhm.
Not just your own though, all of creation. So you're the creator in all of creation, inside of it. So it is affecting you as you are affecting it. So you have to be conditioned to respond to all of it. That's the lenses, the perspectives you live life, the understanding that stays embedded that won't change. One of the examples I continuously give is that we're always about the children.
Right.
So that's a conditioned reality. We call it an understanding, but it's a conditioned response for us. We go into situations, right? If we go, look, now we could be a little bit raunchy, we could, you know, have fun, this and that. What allows us though to do that? You know, it's no babies here, right? There's always a mentality, but if there's children around, it's always like, okay, we have to adjust to the cipher.
Mhm.
When I got knowledge of self, saving knowledge used to take me through how to teach. They sit me down and said, listen, the way you teach in the past, I said, look, I'm opening these doors. Anybody can walk in. I know any of you is gonna walk in, right? I didn't even mention yet, right? I didn't mention you two yet, and I know the guy, right? He's not a mystery guy anymore, right? Right? But he walked. You know, you walk in. I don't know who's gonna come in. And he said, listen, you teach the one that has the least understanding, right? But where did he come up with that? It could be a more difficult pedagogy, a science of teaching by doing that. It could be easier to just, like in a college classroom, you just say, why, you know, when you go to school, it's always the same shit. Rudimentary, make it easy as possible. You're all gonna learn the same shit. If you ain't on this level, catch up, too bad. You know, you get the F, you learn later. But we don't teach like that.
Right.
We see the babies, we all go over the babies though. And then everybody else is, instead of being students, they're being secondary teachers and trying to help that young. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's the way we was taught. You know what I'm saying? And so what would be the worth of that though? The worth of that is, and I was thinking about this a long time, because I was like, I definitely gonna do that. And I would have students that would come regularly. Then I would have new students. And I said, I don't know who's coming. If there are students that are already coming, and then the new student would get a lesson in pedagogy, the science of teaching. They would already know the lesson, but they would get a lesson on how to teach it. So then I started, that's why when I teach different ways all the time. That's what we were taught. So when they said the Father had a self-styled wisdom, his self-styled wisdom actually has self-styled wisdom compared to each day, each way, each borough he went to. You know what I'm saying? That's why a King ATI will give it to you differently. You know what I'm saying? Like, we always go with the trivial stuff. You know, they're rooted in Medina, so they're gonna go, you know, we don't go nation of God's nerves, we go this, that. You know, they go with the trivial stuff that is not as crucial. But they don't go with the other stuff. The hard time teaching that he was giving them, and then the different way of teaching that made Mecca a little bit more open to write things and share things, a little less guarded. Why? Because this is the ambassadorship place. This is the place where you say welcome, you take them in. Medina is not that place. That's not the place where welcome, come on in. You know, like the heart of Medina was not the place to do that, so you wouldn't get that type of teaching. You know what I'm saying? Just like if you know, like for example, people don't always get like the types of style of fighting, right? Like if you get a type of style of fighting, though, Muay Thai, it's all circular. All martial arts are all circular, right? But if you ever see them, though, they're going circular, but in a straight line. So it's like, because they're warriors, they're not coming back. They're going in the battle, they're not coming back. They may never come back. They're going in for is die or die, right? They're all out. But then if you learn it in a Shaolin temple, and you learn martial arts in the Shaolin temple, their circular motions will be like this because they're protected the temple. So styles of fighting are circular, always looking around. The pole styles are circular. You know what I mean? You're protecting things. You know what I mean? That's why a lot of the guys, when we started learning, we was learning Kung Fu, it's like, yo, we're protecting the baby though. That's a wild nigga like, yo, keep kid, I'm going in. You know what I mean? Right? That's not how you, right? If you with your kid, you want like that though, right? You know what I mean? Right? Don't worry, somebody will take care of it. It's a whole village, you know what I mean? There's no village. We don't live in no village. There's nobody taking care of our kid, if you know, if he's straight. So it's all different types of styles. Right. You know what I mean? So even in the classroom, we try to give them different techniques, different styles. And I would be like, okay, I'll teach this young, but then for the others, I'll try to do it differently, you know? Instead of doing it, you know, boring rapper, perform song same way, it's jazz singer, and we sing the shit different every time. You know what I mean?
And telling you, they teach it.
And they get different ways. You know what I'm saying? All different types of ways. I'll say this though. Everybody has taught a lot of people in this nation, but nobody has taught in this particular classroom this long as me. So I have seen more in this type of way of having to teach this way than anyone else ever. It's just a fact. My big brother, like Dark Kim, he was here before and everything like that, but nobody did it. This is 21 years straight. You know what I mean? 21 years straight. The first class I missed, my oldest daughter was born. You know what I mean? These are the classes I missed in the beginning. You know what I mean? Where we had to, you know, be security because there's nobody else. You know what I mean? And teach at the head of it. You know what I mean? But no matter what, there's a welcoming nature. All these things take into account the way you teach, the way you learn, the way you do stuff. And so all of this is conditioning. All of this is conditioning. Because even now, like, right, we had ways of learning how to fight and everything like that. And people come in, I don't know who they are. They could be vicious, stuff like that. You know how many times over the years, somebody goes, nah, man, I'm on some black power shit though. What's this big teaching me shit? You know what I mean? So, oh shit, how am I gonna kick this nigga out? You know what I mean? Right? And then you go, because this school though, if you start fighting and brawling though, this school is not that strong, like it can break. And then they put the picture, why they put pictures up with all this glass and pictures up? Because some of these pictures in the beginning, they were all glass. And I was like, damn, man, now if I get into something, how do I, right? Everything changes the perspective, the conditioning, right? You can't just go, you dirty rotten, and just throw me against the wall, right? I'd be like, yo, Suze, why you broke up the school like that? Yeah, because, you know, everybody's a perfect fighter, you know what I mean? It's all movie shit, right? It don't go like that. But the conditioning, what are your perspectives? And the truth is that you have conditioning. So what can you make in your conditioning, right? That could allow you to constantly question yourself and also keep some perspective. That's what I say. Know your perspectives of understanding.
Right.
The things that you're not going to change.
Mhm.
The way you're not going to change. And then question it, are they really that simple? Are they really that intense? You know what I mean? People do it all the time, and that's why they become outdated. That's why we always go with the youth. Eventually, a person's perspectives that keep them alive become so grounded and they can't adjust or adapt or renew them that now they are conditioned. And then we notice that they're conditioned. Like, man, you conditioned, old man, right? But we're all conditioned. We're all conditioned. You know what I'm saying? It's like, right? Because we do hip hop. Brothers be like, oh man, if it don't have drums, I ain't fucking with it. It gotta have drums on it though. You know what I mean? But the point of hip hop wasn't to have drums. It was to express yourself originally.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And there are countless guys that could flow on without drums. There are so many. Our black music is polyrhythmic. You know what I mean? It's polyrhythmic. It doesn't always need the drum because it's polyrhythmic. It has multiple rhythms within it.
There's a rapper that's really good at it, Rock Marciano.
Right, of course, yeah. He's one of the masters. And of course, though, Ka, Rock Marciano, like they're the innovators of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is this, right? We have a perception. This is the way it ought to be, and that's the only way I'm going to do it, and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And you may not even questioning not just what. Let's say if that artist doesn't want to do it, well, he shouldn't do it. But what about the listener? As a listener, how do you open your ears to something? How do you open it? You know what I mean? If you evaluate something as bad or not right, why is it so? These are all of the things. Like people say something is bad, they don't really have any reasons. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's why I say it's always the earth, wind, and fire. You gotta get the reasons, right? The reasons that we're here. The reasons, right? It's gotta have the earth, wind, and fire, right? All the elements in it. That's what the reasons from. You know what I mean? And when you look, I look more at how will I condition myself. You know what I'm saying? How will I make all these things? Like a lot of my life though is making my own life, like my own money, my own this. So I have to make things. You know what I'm saying? So I have to think like, how do I condition my own thoughts and creativity to consistently make something, as opposed to being robotically inclined, because that might not be the best way to make money. You know what I mean? And it could go against the rules of the same things I'm making, whether it be books, whether it be radio, whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to always be looking at what you're doing and how it is conditioned and how you can recondition it. We do it all the time. It's just that we do it with things that make sense, like sport, you know, or athletics, you know, like when we're training our body. We adjust all the time. You know what I mean? We adjust. When we talk about injuries, we adjust to injuries. We do something. We just, all right, I'm never going to train again. This thing hurts. It's in pain. I won't train forever. We don't do that, though. We're trying to work through it. We try to do something different, right? And we work it out. So we recondition. Because the reason is I call it recondition because it's going to be set. It's going to be in a conditioned way. It's going to be set eventually and then done that way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest, though, right? We showed and proved that mathematics is right and exact. So we are conditioned to wake up every day and say, yo, today's the 17th. Oh, it's God. So conditioning is not necessarily wrong. I was talking about Yaqub. Yaqub made the devil. He predicted that, right? He had devised this and manifested the prediction. But even what needed help was the conditioning. Because he's like, I made them weak though, right? Now, if you make something weak, it doesn't mean it'll be wicked, right? Right? You could be like on some samurai shit, be like, nah, I'll never be wicked. Oh, I don't care, you know, and they just seppuku themselves, right? They refuse, right? It could be, what if all the white folk was weak, but they were like, nah, we're not doing that devilishment to survive. If we can't survive the right way, you know, like.
But some people say, like, within the nation, like, yo, if son's weak, it's bound to be wicked. Like, weak automatically.
Right, but that's probability.
You know what I'm
saying? It's probability. The reason it worked out is because they made a lot of white folk. They didn't make one white folk, right? In fact, and I was telling them, we actually don't teach the macro. You know, we don't go out there and say, oh, white people, you need to hear this. You can be a righteous man and woman. We don't do that shit. The father didn't even there's no pictures of him on a podium. There's nowhere saying like, yo, black man is God, young man, stop walking there, listen to this. You know, you don't do none of that shit. He was teaching individuals. You know what I mean? He was teaching individuals. So we weren't about this mass type of conditioning. It was about the individual and giving them the choice to condition themselves the right way, right? And then this idea of conditioning, the reason it works, the white man is the devil is because they made what? A whole society of devils. You know what I'm saying? But even when they sent them down, they did devilishment. They were prone to wickedness and the probabilities were high, and they did. But they had no conditioning. So their devilishment wasn't targeted, it wasn't focused, it had nothing. So what happened? Man, y'all need to get out, man. It was so obvious. It was like, y'all need to get out. And then all the ancient tales, right? Every single ancient tale, right? Native American tales, all of them talk about the making of a pink man, the making of a, right? Of clay, right? And we had to throw them into the mountains. All the ancient indigenous peoples have some story about a grafted man that was made out of clay and caused evil and chaos, right? But what they left out, though, was the conditioning. Once they give him a point of conditioning, so yeah, that's what Musa gave him. You know what I'm saying? That's what he gave him. He gave him the conditioning. He said, listen, if you focus it this way, then you can be successful in this. So he gave him confidence that, listen, you're weak, but you could be successful. Because what would happen, though, is if you're weak, you're prone to wickedness, and basically you would be anarchist. You'd be like, fuck it, because, you know, you'd be cutthroat with everything, not just yourself, but not just the other people, the original people, but the other white people. Man, if he gets some, I ain't letting him get it either. Why would they help? There's no unity, there's nothing. So that's why I said he taught them how to build homes for themselves. Musa didn't send them down like, yo, these are all carpenters here, you know, white man carpenters coming down. Build a home for themselves. It's like the kind of the metaphor, like they can make their way in society. Society's only open up though if you can make your way in there. You know what I'm saying? Can you make your way? That's what the born degrees in the 114. You know, try and let them do like the original man, and when they can make their own way, then we allow them to come amongst us. Right? They have something to offer. Right? They had something to offer. Like, listen, you know, and mind you, original people societies, if you look through history, they've been very, very open. So we talk about patriarchal, matriarchal. They've been very matriarchal. You know, they've been letting, which just means, it doesn't mean that they are gay or feminine. It just means that they allow people to come in. Whereas like America is the ultimate patriarchal society. Like women be like, oh, it's patriarchal men. That's not really what that means. Only. It literally means that not only do they keep people from coming in the country, but they go to other countries to regulate shit and tell people what to do, just in case that shit might come back over here. Some massive bully shit. Like, you ever see like the chart where they show all the American U.S. military bases around the world? They go over other places, yo, regulate this, just in case, you know, it might, you know, Korean War, where the father fought a war that was just that. The Korean War was like, had nothing to do with America. But they're like, you know, just in case any, you know, this shit spreads, you know, if this shit spreads, then we, you know, I get a little nervous here and I can have you, you know, it's literally like a drug dealer in the Bronx going all the way out to Rhode Island and say, listen, make sure this block stays on this block here, just in case, you know what I mean? I live in the Bronx, you know, right? Then he goes back to the Bronx. It got nothing to do with it. That's fucking life, though. But there's a whole bunch of Bronx niggas killing Rhode Islanders just because, you know? That's America, you know what I mean? That's America. It's patriarchal, you know what I mean? But most ancient original societies are matriarchal. They let it, especially the Asian societies. You know what I mean? That's why Japan is such a big difference. They realized that all the islands can't be put together, so they got vicious. And samurai culture was like, oh, we're going to hold this fort here, and we're going to go get that. And then the islands became united. You know what I mean? But in ancient time, most of China is very matriarchal. You know what I mean? And the other Asian societies. You know what I mean? And so they got conquered easy. You know what I mean? They got conquered, right? Of course, ancient Kemet eventually got overrun because they were matriarchal. It was through the woman. You know what I'm saying? Right?
True.
You know? And let's be honest, though, there's no diss about women, but they didn't make the best decisions. You know what I mean? They didn't make the best choices. You know? Right? Because that's not their nature. Their nature is to see what you got, then do. You know what I mean? All that shit about women intuition and shit, that's not how you run a country. So Intuition has to have some proving ground. So even the female leaders can't run by intuition. Like, oh, I totally don't feel it. Like, that's not how it goes.
Right,
Like,
right.
you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Queen Nzinga wasn't going like, oh my goodness, he's had such a vibe. Like, right? It's not how it's going though. It's, you know, you can't, you know, you can have intuition, but it's not really working like that when you deal with the whole.
No,
It doesn't work that way. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
But that's how most of our sides run. Best book for that is Chancellor Williams, Destruction of Black Civilization. That's really what he was talking about there. You know what I mean? He was talking about like, how did we get overrun when we were more? We was warless. You know, it's a little mentality. The devil's made, and then there's a mentality like, yo, you know, we're that next shit. You gotta be with that next shit, the progressive shit, with the future.
Right.
You know what? That could be,
Futurism shit.
yeah, you know, because that's what the unlike is, the future. Like, yo, that's the future. You know what I mean? Why do people like bad music? You know, I was liking the music though. They didn't hear. Nobody heard a trap sound and this deteriorated music that had was less artistic, less music, less musical experimentation. Everything was lesser made. All of that. Nobody said, "Wow, this is incredible. We have to hear this. I've never heard something this deep." No, it's like, yo, this is the next shit. This is what we're doing. It's like, oh, it's the next shit. It could sell because it's the new shit.
Right.
Because you could take something new to somebody and say, hey, can you sell this? It's always the same thing.
Right.
And the easier way is to make it shittier than to have a whole bunch of musical geniuses go to labels and say, I'm a musical genius. That doesn't work that way, right? Musical geniuses, where? You know what I mean? And nobody's looking for a next Stevie Wonder. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's looking for a next Rakim. They don't look for legends. That's too hard. You know what I mean? We look for cute faces though, and then we just put them there. We look for, you know what? You'd look good if you did some muscle. You got some muscles. You'd look great in this thing. That's easier. That's easier. Why would you do all the work? You know what I'm saying? Why would you do all the work? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's sad,
Right?
man.
Hey Drake, you look good on TV when you're doing that show. Do a little sing-song shit. Yeah, I know, but you do a little sing-song shit. He's a good kid. He's gonna come in on time. He's gonna always be here. You know, he's not gonna do no street shit. He's not gonna kill nobody like all these other niggas, right? Right? You come in, you sing a song or two, the ladies will love you and stuff. You're light-skinned. Let's do it. They didn't go, you know, I'm worried about that. This kid doesn't rap a lick. This kid doesn't have any bars. Like nobody said. I've been at labels. They don't say that. I've been at labels though. The bigger the label though, the less you hear that. Nobody goes, this guy has talent. I'm telling you. They never say that shit. That's in the movie of A Legend that they make years later where they talk about Ray Charles and shit like that. Why do these movies, that's why they're so big, these movies. Because some rare white guy was like, Ray Charles is a gift. We got to do something about this. But most of them are like, hey, he's fucking blind. I'm not dealing with all this shit. What if he gets killed walking down the street? Right? That's a horrible asset. This guy wants to have sex with everybody. He's on the chitlin circuit. Some guy's gonna kill him though because he had sex with his wife though after a show and he's blind. He can't run away. That's a horrible asset. I don't want to move a needle, right? No, think about it though, right? It's horrible though. But there'll be that rare one person that really loves music. It's like, yo, we've got to have this guy on the label, right? But they're doing everything that could get him killed. Yo, think about it. Ray Charles should have been killed by some brother out there. He's having sex with everybody. He can't even see him. Everybody's just jealous of him. He can't see his enemies. You know what I'm saying? Which is crazy. It's a fucking mega story.
You want to watch that movie again on a different perspective.
A different perspective.
Yeah.
But there's a perspective because I remember talking to old musicians, like all the clubs that were on Jerome Avenue in the Bronx. They didn't have hip hop first. They had salsa first, the first urban genre of New York City. It was Puerto Ricans that made the first urban genre of New York City. And they were all over Jerome. And I used to talk to Willie Colon. And I talked to him for a long time. I said, you know, like you used to have these album covers with the gun out. And he had one album where he's got the gun on the guy. And he's going, and the album cover's called I'll Kill You If You Don't Buy This Album. That's the name of the album, I'll Kill You If You Don't Buy This Album. So he would tell me, he would tell me,
album too.
no, it's classic, yeah.
That's right.
And he would tell people, he would go to the clubs and he was like, yo, it's a lot like, after he got over the thing about the cursing and rap and stuff, and I showed him like, yo, there's a lot of similarities. And he'd tell me like, yo, we used to go to the club and a lot of these guys were like, yo, we see you acting tough on the cover. Are you really like that? And that's how they would get into brawls. And then Hector Lavoe, the singer, though, his soneos, right? So you sing the song, right? The lyrics of the song, oh, baby, I love you, or I hate you. Lavoe probably has 2 songs that are positive about women.
Oh, shit.
Just to let you know the catalog. Yeah, no, it's just, it's about love of Puerto Rico, missing Puerto Rico, the people. He has songs about being the best sonero. So he has like, they're like rap songs.
Yeah.
But after you sing the major lyrics that are written, then you go into call and response with the chorus. So you actually, when you perform them, you make up the lyrics. And you have to rhyme every other soneo. So it's chorus, you make up a lyric, chorus, and then you rhyme that lyric. So they rhyme too. You know, like rhyming wasn't invented by it was in the culture throughout the Black diaspora. But they used to rhyme some tough shit. They were like, yo, I'm that dude, I'm the best, I'm that dude, It's the same shit in hip hop. And people used to say, yo, you got these covers and all that, and things like that. They're doing things differently. They had to fight. Same shit. They had to fight. You know what I mean? Nothing new. And I'm like, yo, so it's all that. Nobody wants those troubles. You know what I'm saying? They rather deal with the protected artists, the one that they can protect, or deal with the bodyguards and all that kind of stuff. They don't want to deal with all that kind of stuff. Why do you think like even 50 Cent took so long to get on? Mind you, his talent is vastly overrated. Okay, he didn't dominate he wasn't a dominant lyricist. He just made a product in the street because people were buying mixtapes and they were different. You know what I mean? But he wasn't a dominant force. It's people rewriting the 2000s as usual. You know what I mean? But nobody wanted to get him because like, yo, they just tried to kill you. Just trying to kill you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Why would we sign you? You know what I mean?
Right, you just took
shots. The reason he worked on with Interscope because they knew, let's keep it real, they knew like, okay, Dre and them will keep it alive for the one album. And if he dies, it'll just sell a lot of albums.
Right,
because by 2003, they're like, listen, the actual death of a rapper, it counts. He just has to make that one album and then it will be good. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna say thankfully, but he's still alive. You know what I mean? Right? I'm saying he hasn't contributed that much in the way of things. But if you are reading 50 Cent's book, The 50th Law with Robert Greene, that's a great book. Yeah. So he did contribute something because the 50th Law deals heavily with the 1 in 36 because it's about fear. The whole 50th Law is overcoming fear. So it's a great book. It deals with he likes the devil because the devil gives him nothing. It deals with all that. So it's a very good book, though. I like to dig into 50 Cent because I think his music catalog is unnecessary in anyone's catalog. You don't need it. You could sing "Happy Birthday" with some other, Stevie. Play Stevie. You don't need to sing that beginning portion. And at one time, the Get Rich or Die Trying instrumentals were out there. I lost mine. You know what I mean? But it's not that essential. Somebody will argue here. I'll probably lose like mad followers and shit. Kasi knows I'm very anti-2000s.
Yo,
the 2000s.
All the shit from my generation that I love, you hate that shit.
The 2000s I document it as the dark ages.
Oh wow.
And it is though.
I don't see that though. It is.
It really is though. Yeah, from 2000, I tell you this, from 2000 to 2006, 7. Without argument, before blogs and internet could argue against it, before anyone could argue, who was the best rapper they said was the best rapper of all time by the end of 2006, 7, they were saying, and throughout then was like the best rapper everybody would say all the time. Is a white guy. Every single media, Eminem, he's the best, he's the best. Everyone's writing that though. You know what I mean? Right? And the best rapper was Jay-Z.
I was gonna say that. Even
though he paid for all that. Right? We write articles about payola, and everybody hates about who takes the money, but who gave him money?
That's true.
Right? Because if I made the song and I gave him the money to play it, the song that he plays is who paid him. Right? What did Flex play? Play a lot of Jay-Z.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right? A lot of payola.
We used to kill him, son.
Not playing. I'm just saying a lot of stuff in the 2000s wasn't earned. And so you have imbalance of all things. You know what I mean? Imbalance.
And a lot of it put us to deep sleep.
Yeah.
I mean? Like the early 90s and all that was more conscious.
Yeah. You know, but all type of reasons. Media was horrible. Music became more tinny, right? Compare Swizz Beats to any producer before. It's more tinny.
Yeah.
More treble. More. Everything is. There's no filtered drums. There's no thickness. Less sampling. More keyboard action of people that can't play more than one note. You know what I'm saying? Let's not forget they gave a Grammy or an Oscar award to the niggas that made "Whoop That Trick." That's said and done. That happened in the 2000s though. People thought that was excellent music though. You know what I mean? Hustle and Flow was a parody. Hustle and Flow is a parody movie that people took so real that they took it as a drama. But it should be as pathetic as like early hip hop movies that really not. We don't do music like that. You know what I mean? Raymo's not a real nigga from the streets. He's not a real graph writer, right? No. But they took it real. But oh my goodness, we have a fucking hit. Whoop that trick. Well, it did it. That was the note. Da da da. What's the note? Say whoop that trick. That's da da da. That's literally what he played. Da da da. And that actually was considered a hit and was seen as a documentary drama of the 2000s. So how can I not call it the Dark Ages? That's pathetic. You know what I mean? It's pathetic. You know what I mean? That's what the whole era was.
It's like people would stop thinking about actually creating music.
Yeah.
Because everything had substance. And I felt like, in the 2000s, everything started to die down. Everything started to be more watered down.
It was an understatement. Watered down. All right, but before I hate more, because I can do this for hours. I couldn't.
Yo. Oh, man.
Okay, last week's degree was as much about self as it was about cipher. And it got me to thinking about what you had said about being a God and how one could possibly run into trouble making decisions based on experience in life only as a black man or any other community. I think it was in regards to the Asian hate that has been going on, but I could be wrong. Okay. I find it interesting that we should make decisions as a king who rules a society, but that we experience in reality as a black, brown, or yellow man, woman. I didn't find it contradictory, rather encasing of the knowledge equality degree. Wondered if you could build on that a little more. All right, I don't know exactly what I was saying in regard to that, right? Last week's degree was now to add on a cipher in the class because today's now is God.
The class asked you to check it.
I always say that we should look at the angle of things. When we talk about perspective and how you condition yourself, that you should look at things as a king, one who has knowledge of himself and knowledge of his people and the surroundings to make a decision of what? Action. That you take that responsibility. And most people don't. And we just take a responsibility. So most of the time, for example, we'll look at politics and say, oh, look, I don't like what Trump did because this, that, it's not good for black people. And I don't like what he did for people. But also look at like, what if you was replacing Trump right now? What would you do? A lot of times, though, your response might not be as good either. You know what I mean? In fact, you might just go up on TV and say, yo, they don't let a nigga do shit. You know what I mean? Like, they'd probably be right. You don't let me do shit. Just shoot me now. Like, right? Right? Just assassinate me now because you're not letting me do anything, right? That would probably be the realest thing to do. But what I'm saying is that, like, we're taking the responsibility of being a true and living God, creator in all its creation. So taking responsibility is sometimes to put ourselves in the position of people that have power and say, well, what would I do differently, what I wouldn't do? So obviously the first thing, we wouldn't be a spokesperson, be such an advocate for subtle and dog whistle or overt hate the way he was. Because no matter what anybody says, right, both presidents could suck. But Trump always has the added blah, blah, that he was inciting people deliberately. No matter what we say, no matter how horrible he's already fucking up or non-doing, he's more of a non-doing president. Right. Joe Biden, he doesn't have any of the magnetic to go out there and make a racist just kill shit. That's true. Like he has he could not get anybody to do anything. He can't, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have that vigor. You know what I'm saying? Obama did, but he was very, very careful. They will, you know, like, he was very careful. His best trait was that he showed a level of dignity. A lot of us are militant, so we don't find that valuable. But older people did, because we don't get to see that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or see that it is possible. You know what I'm saying? Is it possible to be dignified, though, in a position where no one will respect you, or you will have massive difficulty? You know what I mean? So, you know, either way, there's benefits to it, though. You know what I'm saying? Right? There's benefits. So sometimes you put yourself in the position of those leaders. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean that. Like, for example, like, I'm reading Obama's long book. It's a big ass book he wrote. I'm reading it slowly but surely, because I want to see his perspective, or how he justifies things and things like that, and how he dealt with things. Right? But at the same time, I wouldn't read a book from Trump, because I know that he's a compulsive liar. So I don't think that the book would even tell what he actually did. And he even did things that were worthwhile to hear. Like, and I mean, what I mean by worthwhile, is he going to be honest about actual devilish thing he did and give us the secrets of how he did it? That's what I mean by, like, honest, because he could have done nothing good, but he probably won't even be honest about that either. So you wouldn't get much out of it. You know what I'm saying? Whereas Obama, there's a lot of strategy that goes on that he's giving you, that there's a lot of jewels in that. You know what I mean? So you study everything, even a lot of things you disagree with. So you get a perspective on it. You know what I mean? That's what it means to have that palette open, a wide palette. You know what I mean? Like I said, my career is writing about music. I listen to a lot of music I don't like. That's when people, like, they get frustrated, because I'll dislike the music they like, but I also know the music. Most people's grounds for arguing is like, yo, you don't know what I like, though, so you don't know why, you know, he's trapping in the trap like that. But they say, yeah, but he said this, and, you know, look at what he did here. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's trash. You know what I mean? Right? But I heard it, though. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is that you do the knowledge, though. That's what it's always the gift that keeps on giving. Is doing the knowledge. You know what I mean? You go way farther just doing the knowledge to everything that you can, though. And you can't do it to everything. You know what I mean? But that's why you try to have a focus of certain things, but also spend time, though, broaden your palette with a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? And that's why I have certain bills. Like, I have a justice bill, a plus lesson I wrote, and just showing you to expand your palette in 10 different areas. You know what I mean? So, like, for example, in music, you expand your palette. Like, people have favorite genres, though, but expand your palette, though, by listening to some of the best of something else. And then what would be that best of something else? Is it something that you just heard was popular, or did you do a little research to find, in this genre, they're considered the best? You know what I'm saying? You'd be surprised how it opens up your palette, because everything is palette. If everything is conditioning, everything is what you do the knowledge to, then that means that the more broad-based you can do the knowledge to, the more that you could see what's wrong out there, the more that you could see what's dangerous, the more that's really what Kung Fu training is. People think it's all this fucking fighting and all that kind of shit. But if a person's eyes are trash, they still don't see anything. It's what your eyes see. And so, like, the fighter's gift is that they see a lot. They see a lot of things faster. Best example is Floyd Mayweather, right? He sees everything. That's why he evades everything. Why would he have to punch all the time? Why would he have to dive in and take a blow? Now he's in his mid-40s and he's having fun. He doesn't have brain damage. He's just balling. You know what I mean? That to me is the ideal fighter. You know what I'm saying? That would be the ideal way, but his eyes were seeing everything. So it's the palette. The more music you hear, the more sounds you can understand. You know what I'm saying? Just like the more languages a person knows, the more that they can communicate better. It's in the palette, how you broaden your palette. When you read books, you have your favorites and the things you want to learn, but then you try to broaden your palette. Let me read a poetry book or something here. Like, look, I'll read a lot of books, though. The books I read slowest are actually novels. Because there's a story about somebody that ain't really real. So I tend to drift and say, it's not cool. You know what I mean? And I lose focus. So I make sure that I work on reading novels and broaden the palette. You know what I'm saying? So you break out some poetry, you break out some other stuff. You brought in the palette because it widens everything. You know what I mean? Just like when you train, right? When you work out, though, you try to do the compound stuff. You know, deadlift, bench, squats. But then you try to broaden shit. You try to do other things. You know what I mean? To extend it all. You know what I mean? It's all the same. The way you do the knowledge is like that. It'll broaden your perspective. You know what I mean? So in the question he's asking me about being God and how one could possibly run into trouble making decisions based on experience in life only as a black man. I think it's this, like we talk about like the Asian community, right? The first thing is the anger. When we get down to self, some of the anger that other original people get, we should learn to let it go faster.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because we got knowledge of self. So like everybody's making the very good point that they doing shit for Asians and not doing stuff for African Americans. And then if you got knowledge of self, you're like, fucking duh.
Right.
That's what they're gonna do. Because that's how they divide us though. If they treated the Asians really great, you know what I mean? And they treated Americans great, then what would be the problem? Now, if they treat everybody horrible, then everybody's gonna be like, yo, they're treating all of us bad, you know, and then they storm and they unite. But if they treat the Asians okay, a lot of Asians though, they know, and they're like, yo, this is messed up. You know, they're doing stuff for us and not for y'all, and this is crazy. But most Asians are like, yo, that's cool. It benefits us. Let's just keep it moving. And the truth is, all the 85 are like that. All the 85 are like that. Remember the 85? When they were showing all the kids locked in cages, African-American conscious folk were like, that ain't my kids. They done separated the black family all the time. You know what I'm saying? So I don't care about them kids. It ain't us. And all of a sudden, though, because they treat us different, they make us think that we're all different. We actually lose our humanity in the way that we respond to a situation.
That's right.
It really should be like, yo, that's fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Yes, we didn't act, not everybody, no, you're a regular person, you got a life, you got bills to pay. Not everybody's asking you to take up arms and shit and then rally by the border. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes a lot of things change by just the consistency of humanity never wavering. That when you see something wrong, you say, you know what, that isn't right. You know what I'm saying? And then you continue on. Even if you didn't do anything, you keep your humanity. So we got the knowledge of, you know, they're supposed to they're supposed to make us think that we're different. Months ago, there was this virus was killing. And it was so horrible out there that our people still said, fuck it, I'm going out there and rioting and everything. Even if they could get this virus that could kill them. Because that's what they said, this is virus. So, and it was killing people. And it was difficult to deal with because our people, there are natural ways to deal with it, but our people don't deal with no natural shit. Oh, so now this is the worst thing ever, and I'm gonna take vitamin C. I never did this shit before.
Yo, bro.
Right? Oh, now, yeah, so I can't breathe. So now you want me to drink sea moss now, right? Like, I ain't gonna do that. Now I'm gonna eat vegetables, take chlorophyll. So it's like the 85 wins. So it's scary. They're gonna have to go with whatever medicine, drugs that they give them and the incubator. You know, if they get the machine and tough it out. But after months that happens, and then they throw, a couple of Asians. They were going after Asians. The motherfucker called it the Kung Fu bill, like the Kung Fu disease, Kung Flu. You know what I'm saying?
Kung Fu.
You know, and like I say, I told you, he had magnetic. He rallied people against him. So, you know, this white folk go, yeah, you fucking Chinese people, and then they think that they could, fucking hurt some Chinese people and shit. You know what I mean? So then what? The Chinese rally, they use their means and they're like, yo, we're not having this shit like that. And they get an Asian bill. But that Asian bill isn't passing because Asians fought for it and demanded it. It's fought for because it makes sense to give things though and further cause a division. Because now when you can demonize the African American community if their politicians go, yo, how are you doing this and not for us though? Hey, hold on. You don't want to help the Asians? They're being killed out here, Now, mind you though, I'm gonna keep it real. I didn't see one news report where I saw Asians killed, where I saw an Asian hung or shit like that. I didn't see one. I keep it real. I did not see one. Now, as far as police though, I saw black and brown. I saw lots of articles. Oh, they lynched this one. They shot this dude in the back. This and that. Oh, with the brown, there's yeah, we did find like they killed this brown brother and shot him in the back, but we didn't write a story about that. You know what I mean? You see how they don't write stories about the brown that they kill,
right?
But they write stories about the black that they kill. You know what I mean? Because that shit is fear, and they want to make you feel alone too. And then most brown communities, they're immigrant communities, right? Except for Puerto Rico, they're immigrant communities. So if something happens, though, they try to keep it quiet. Though. Let's just keep it quiet, keep on. Let's just, be ninja, more ninja. Let's be more ninja, like Mexicans, especially. They just be more covert. African Americans are like that. They're like, yo, this is our country. What the fuck? We're not living like that, right? So it's different things. It's Australia. They make you think you're all different. You're not going to have the same policy. So it makes us look at things different. And that's what I was trying to say last week, the idea of looking at things differently. You know what I mean? The experiences. We have to look at things like, yo, yeah, I'm an original man. I don't like the way that's going on. But look at things from a more macro look. The Father taught the micro, the individual. But he taught us to look at the bigger picture all the time. He taught us that, like, yo, what we do affects everything. Look at the Father, though. He taught one at a time. And this whole world is rocked by the knowledge of self that he taught. No one else is teaching that man is God. To this day, no one else is teaching man is God. Today's most modern and progressive Buddhist sects, Taoist sects that deal with Taoism and all that, because ancient Taoism and Buddhist Taoism, Zen Buddhism, they all allude and sometimes overtly say man is his own. Man is his own creator. Zen Buddhism constantly says the man is mind, but they also say that mind is illusion, that the mind only makes up illusion. So some Buddhists will argue that everything you see is illusion. No, but there's science, but that is the explanation of the illusion. So they even take out the criteria that proves this reality. They eliminate the criteria. You see what I'm saying? Just like an Orthodox Islamic sects, they take away the criteria. Not he's unseen being. We address him as he in the Quran because we can't explain it. But he's the unexplainable. How do you argue with somebody if they take them out of all language?
That's the only thing I hear.
Right? You can't.
It's unfathomable.
It's unfathomable though. Well, if you're that fucking weak, then just go on and be unfathomable. Just go do what you fucking doing. Those are for people that they have made their glass ceiling. That's why I call it glass ceiling. Racism is the fucking steel door. Have you ever worked at a place where you didn't see racism? How is it a glass ceiling? Niggas don't bump into racism. Right? You're at work, you go, oh my goodness, what just happened? Right? You don't go racism. Holy shit. You're like, oh, these niggas get right. It's a fucking locked door. You see it. But religion is that glass ceiling because you're like, this nigga won't even ask the question now. His God is unexplainable. So now you can't even use explanations to deal with him. You try the God? That's peace God. Peace God. So you can't even explain it. So all of the sects of Islam, they're out the door. You can't even go to it. Most of the Buddhist sects, they're like, nah, it's all everything man sees is from the mind, and the mind is all illusion. Because it's a manipulation of the concept of Maya. Maya is illusion. And the major teaching of Buddhism is to get rid of suffering. And to do that, you have to understand that everything is just Maya. Everything is illusion. And you're trying to get rid of illusion, the things that are not really important. But what happens is they just end up explaining all things. It's like, it's all Maya. You know what I mean? With those, what do we the gods got business? So trying to talk to people that take away all criteria that could be possibly thought of. You know what I'm saying? Nah, they've boxed in reality to fit the mystery God. So all the unlimited reality of the mind, all of the creative realities of the mind that show and prove every day, because something is created every day. You know what I'm saying? It's funny. They keep telling us there'll never be another person like you. Every human is unique. I'm a twin. I'm actually an identical twin. we definitely are different. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And they tell you every single human is different. So we show and prove that we create anew all the time from the actual human, from ourselves to everything else. But we still put limits. But creation is unlimited. It is limited. And only the mystery can do it. You see how they flip? It doesn't make any sense. But it makes sense to people because the more that you limit people's questions, the more that you can formulate, meaning condition a society to continue to subscribe to the goals of those that are running it. Right? What is the eighth degree, right? A society is a group of man, woman, and children for one common cause.
That's right.
What if they decide the common cause? What's the common cause? To continue what? Our reality, right? As the top. By what? Blood sucking those what? Minds. Because the deeper that you look into slavery and other things like that, slavery was really based on the blood sucking of the black man's mind, not his body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why do you think? Look, you ever see books now? They, especially if black women get tight and they start writing books. And, the black woman was the one that was doing most of the labor, though. That's right, because they were blood sucking the black man's mind. You know what I mean? Black man was mainly two things: go fuck and go. Wait. You got some thoughts, nigga? What do you got? So that's why the argument. People go.
That's real shit.
That's real shit.
Not only could the white man not build up this country, we had to build it, but he wasn't there going, yeah, this is architecture, this is how you do it, though. He didn't know how to build it.
Like, nigga, how you do this?
You know what I mean? When he saw the indigenous, though, the original people here, they had societies already.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't carving roads. Lewis and Clark wasn't cutting through shit with a machete and shit. They had roads already.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they were like, yo, what y'all did here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how'd you do all this shit, though? And then they said, okay, so basically, white conquest is taking over of societies that already exist and then doing it as themselves. That's why whitewash, man, that is the agenda. Like, whitewash is a real thing. That's why whitewash, to me, reaches its peak in Spain. When they get rid of the Moors, though, and you have the Inquisition, because they actually violently got rid of the Muslim Moors, and they built over the society. That's why they have the most unique churches ever, because they built on top of Muslim temples.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's why, like, you never see architecture this refined as the churches in Spain. That's because they ain't fucking churches, though. They just put a T on it. You know what I mean? They put that cross on it. But the Inquisition made people aware, like, yo, are you Muslim? Off with your head. But they also started to translate some of those things into Spanish. And then they said, listen, we need to do one thing that they did, and that's go get some booty, get some things. And that's why the Spanish were the first to go out and get some shit. You know what I mean? Because they learned from the Moors that the Moors were able to develop their own capital. And if you can't develop capital, you go get it. Capital. Capital is not money.
True.
Capital is not trading money. Capital is the actual collection of resources and the control of human and natural earth resources.
True.
That's what capital is. It's nothing. It's not buying and selling and shit like that. You know what I mean? So the Inquisition was putting fear into the people. Again, fear. That's why the 136 is the most simplest written, but one of the most powerful, because it's the mental agenda. The mental agenda. You know what I mean? He put fear in that.
That's right.
I really like flamenco music. It's from southern Spain. Andalusia, which is the original Moorish name. And it's part of the African culture. That's why we don't really subscribe to it. That's why we think it's European, because their tempos are not 4/4, like a classic James Brown, Their tempo is awkward when we hear it. It's different because it's not West African, it's East African. It is different tempo. You know what I mean? So they have different rhythmic structures. So we hear them and we go, nah, it's just some fucking Spaniards looking like idiots like that. You know what I mean? And doing the click, click, click. You know what I mean? But when we go in there, it's very soulful music. It's beautiful music. And it has that rhythmic texture, right? And the guitar is played like string instrument. And if you know that string instruments and string theory originate with the Moors. So the tres, 3-string guitar, Puerto Rico, which is the national instrument, of course because they want to be more Spaniard, more white, instead of calling it the conga, which should be. But anyway, that's my beef. The tres or the cuatro in Cuba, because they have it 4-string. These are all from Spain because they're all Moorish instruments.
Right.
So the most bougie shit that we think is white, like the harp, that's a black man's instrument though. You know what I mean? But, you know, put a white lady and just go, you know, it's so holy. It becomes holy. You know what I'm saying? These are all string instruments. You know what I mean? The piano is an African instrument. You go in the American Museum of Natural History, though, they actually have one of the oldest African pianos, one of the earliest ones. It's a little tiny piano. They have it in there.
Oh, sure.
You know, but nobody takes you on a detour from that stupid whale that they always take kids to. You know what I mean? It's always the whale. You know what I mean?
Right.
Nobody goes anywhere else to see anything else. And you get tired by the time you get anywhere else. You know? And that's all in Golden Age of the War, that thick-ass book that edited by Ivan Van Sertima. Essays galore about that and the proofs. But the Spanish Inquisition made people be quiet about what they were. You know what I mean? Quiet. Don't say anything. I saw a thing, and they were asking a lady about that, and I was doing research, and I'm trying to listen. It's in Spanish, so I'm doing research. Is this lady a flamenco singer or just a bullshit Spanish pop singer? Because I have to find a difference. You know,
Right.
I'm collecting one, not the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, yeah, no, some of my stuff is like flamenco-like, but I just take elements. I'm not doing that kind of music. And you can hear little things like that because they're very anti. You know what I mean? There are documentaries when the Moors ruled Europe that BBC did. You can look that up on YouTube. It's a great documentary. You'll see all those churches and stuff, right? And people in that day, like 80s, 90s, whenever they did this documentary, they still refuse to admit that they might have some Moorish blood, or like they don't want to admit it, or they're scared to talk about it. It's different than like a Puerto Rican or a Dominican that goes, no, I'm not black, I'm Indio, you know, it's different. They literally had like a little bit of fear that you could sense, like that it's not good to talk about that kind of stuff.
Right.
And this is from hundreds of years ago, you know, but they were burning people at the stake. Why? They're not burning witches. They're burning people with knowledge that's different. Women that know the earth, that understand the earth, that understand the herbs and things like that. That bitch is a witch. How'd she get rid of that germ? These are white people that were dying of plague. They had no idea what was going on. She gives a fucking herb shit. She makes a sauce, and this guy's livid. The white people don't understand because they're living in cauldron food. White people, one of the reasons they died so easily back then, they used to make their stew in a cauldron. So they eat, they serve you and everything like that. And there's a little bit left, right? They make tomorrow's stew in there. And everybody eats so, and then there's a little bit left. A little bit left from today and a little bit left from yesterday. And cook on it again and everything like that. Some of that food starts to rot. They don't clean anything. What are they cleaning? And they would continually pile on the cauldron and stuff like that. So then after a while, look, he just died. I don't know what happened to this thing. He just died. His teeth fell out. I don't understand. There's no hygiene. They don't have no hygiene. They don't have anything. And then the Moors, they brought soaps. They brought the first bathing ways of bathing called the water closets. And the Europeans were like, no, we don't need that shit. What do we need that shit though? We just pick up our stuff and throw it out. You ever see those old, period pieces? And they go, milady, I will take care of you. And they dump something. That ain't water. That's shit and urine. It's fucking gross. And some people used to be like slick. Like they would make tubes to throw the shit out in another person's house. You know what I mean? And they would call and the different white ethnicities were the people that were more downtrodden though. Like the Irish used to just throw their shit out in the front step. They open the door and put the shit out there. British people, they used to walk in the streets with big shoes, man and female, because the gutters were going through. There are no gutters. Shit used to go through. The gutters was in the middle of the street, so they used to walk with big heel shoes. You know what I mean? Yeah, the big heel shoes. Yeah, that's how they made that shit. And that leads to like big boot culture, all these kind of things. You know what I mean? It wasn't fucking traction. Right. It was getting through all that muck. You know what I mean? Fucking disgusting. You know what I mean? London Bridge is falling down. It's so much putridness. It's raining acid rain. It's crumbling the bridge. It's acid rain. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like all these things. You know what I mean? They were not civilized in any kind of way. You know what I mean? So the cleverness of the Spanish Inquisition is like, how can we take the best part? They took what we taught them. Take the best part. You know what I mean? Preserve it for ourselves.
That's right.
And then they win. It's some fucking evil shit. But that's what happens when you become weak and wicked. You start to learn the shit that Musa taught you. So throughout history, we have consistently reinvigorated societies. And that's where we could get frustrated. Because we do shit, and it's like, okay, I'm going to do my own. I'm going to be my own entrepreneur, my own money. But even if you make something great, you're still, it feels like you're benefiting and making their world greater. It's always a frustration, but it's just the way it is. You know what I'm saying? And that's why the Father taught to teach righteousness, because the only way to get rid of this society is not to not give to it, because then you wouldn't give to yourselves. The truth is that if you teach the babies the right ethos, morals, ways, and means, then they have every single generation has the impact of making that the standard, and they force out the standard there. You know what I'm saying? Because the truth is that whether anyone admits it or not, the grafted is not going to last anyway. No matter what you do,
Right.
the grafted cannot last physically. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if every other black person is on some, I gotta get me a white woman though, that white, you know what I mean? And he gets that white. What you're gonna do is you're gonna get rid of him faster, you know what I mean? So he can have the most sellout mentality. He's basically breeding out the white, because they were never meant to be here. They was only meant to be here a certain time. So what's gonna in a white whatever white students I have, like the whites that I know and stuff. Well, if and when in the times I tell them this, I said, listen, your legacy is what you do righteous.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What you do righteous, what you leave behind that's righteous, and lead the next person. It's not to keep your way of life alive.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not to keep that alive. It's not to keep any type of ethnicity or anything alive. It's to keep the righteousness that we were taught alive. You know what I mean? And ever developing. I don't know. I went a long-winded shit to ask the question that Quatis had, but Knowledge Allah says he remembers being in the lodge amongst the Masons. I was initiated into the lodge of all colored folk. Them dudes talk more about Egypt and black culture than anything else. Yeah. You know what's a good example? We talk about the Irish. I mentioned Irish. The Druids were actually Irish people.
Okay.
They're not. Yeah, they weren't black people. They were white people that they actually adhered to the ancient Masonic teachings and the legacy of Egypt. This whole westernized world is based on Egypt. So Egypt is not the origin of our reality, but it is theirs. You know what I'm saying? That's the model for them. They were the first teachers of them. You know what I'm saying? That's why you talk about the Egyptian mystery school system, right? Until you read Stolen Legacy by George James and start with those books, right?
Yeah.
And the Egyptian mystery school system wasn't Egyptians, they're like, yo, let's go teach some white people. Let's do some crazy shit. It wasn't that. It was basically a network. And the way I see it, it was a way of reconvening all the original people that had separated. And can we have kind of like an intranet? Like, can we build them all back? Everything that everybody built out there. Can we kind of put it all together and see what we did? And they naturally, it extends to white people. Now, how come that became the point of scholarship? Is because our black scholars are writing from behind the 8 ball.
Right.
They don't even bear witness that we created all this shit. So we got to teach the true white origins to show you the real black origins. You know what I mean? But our people, and it's a detriment to the young because we got stuck writing only about that. We didn't speak about how all the original people were uniting and what the other original countries, and how if we were the original people here that hate each other, know each other, respect each other, all these different things that we're fighting against or trying to unite with, you know what I mean? All of these things are a pain in the ass. But we don't learn about those origins. There's a lot more in ancient scholarship. that we haven't even tapped. You know what I mean? Our young, especially in this nation, they're the ones to do that to me. You know what I mean? The ones that got the knowledge of as God can look at these ancient temples and not be bogged down by looking for ancient mystery gods. Because I think that impairs a lot of ancient Egyptian research too.
Right.
It's not about looking for ancient mystery gods. This knowledge itself always was. Some of them had it back there,
Right.
but you can't find it because the scholars don't have that lens. Even the black scholars didn't have the lens. It's not like Evan Van Sertima or Chai but like, there's no mystery god. No, they're just thinking about different mystery gods. You know what I mean? We have a totally new perspective, you know? And when you look at all that, the Egyptian mystery school system was extending outward, but we only hear about like what they did with the Greeks. But what they did with the Greeks becomes the foundation of how everything gets laid out. And boy, look, you know, you give them something and they try to destroy it as much as possible. Because when you look at the history from Greece and then to Rome, they really try not to do anything that they're fucking shown. You know what I mean? It's just really annoying. They don't do anything because Socrates is the best example because he was really trying to give out righteous principles and he had to, you know, he basically had to commit suicide to show that righteousness. And it didn't take because Plato was a piece of shit. And he just basically was in the ear of Alexander the Great and said, just take all this shit over. And they took over, you know, Egypt and they renamed it Alexandria. You know what I mean? Even in school, you're never really told that Alexandria is in Egypt. Because then somebody can say, why the fuck is Greeks in Egypt? And then the teacher doesn't want to tell you that, yo, they stole that shit and they renamed it and they took that shit. Notice that white people are so fast to tell you how they took over everything, but they don't want to tell you that they took that because it gives too many clues.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because once they take over Alexandria, though, that's when they launch. That's when it really launches and shit like that. All of a sudden, Aristotle, it wasn't Plato, it was Aristotle. Aristotle, he was in the ear of Alexander the Great. And all of a sudden, he wrote 500 books. Get the fuck out of here. 500 books.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's just crazy. That's just crazy. That's like a guy who make one song though. He took over Wu-Tang's catalog and say, I did the whole thing, you know, like I'm the new RZA, you know what I mean? Like he didn't do shit. He didn't do shit. You know what I mean? And it was that kind of devilishment that leads to what we, you know, slowly but surely what we end up having today. It's a slow pickup. First, it's like the appropriation of the history and the knowledge, and that took them but so far. Then their own lifestyle of slavery, because they dealt with slavery themselves before they enslaved any of us. That was a way of life because they couldn't. In other words, they're making decisions very inhumanely. Oh, you owe me though? Okay, well you have to work for me until you get that paid. That is one of the most inhumane ways of dealing with debt that I've ever heard. You know what I'm saying? It's a terrible way of dealing with debt. You know, like you're under my command until you pay this debt.
Be forever.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And then once you realize you can manipulate that, then you have serfdom and all that kind of stuff. You can like, yo, we could just keep these people in lock forever. And that's why, you know, look at the concept of a castle and then the village. The fucking castle is not huge like that just because they need all that space, but because they own everything. And if the people uprise, you gotta make sure they can't come in. We gotta have a drawbridge and all that kind of shit. You know, all that shit. You know, we see all the Lord of the Rings, and you see fights like that, and it looks so fun and epic and fun to watch. That shit is for the civilians that you are oppressing. It ain't for other people coming in, really. That's certain battles, but generally, that's for the people that you're oppressing right down below. They're living in huts of straw, they, you know, all that kind of shit. And they're living as lavish as possible in a giant castle. And just in case you get the means, like, you ain't getting this shit. You know? I remember one time my daughter, my oldest, when she was younger, she was confused. She said, why all the British, when they came to America, they said that they made homes. When they finally made homes, they made homes on hills. I said they made homes on hills because they had to make sure the natives weren't going to try to take your shit back. Right? What's the best way to not be outflanked? You know, outflanked means like, you know, you got to make sure, right? In this room, we'd be outflanked by the door and here, right? get it to a higher point.
That's right.
That's right.
Get to a higher point. You know what I'm saying? And all the oppressors, that's what they did. They go to a higher point. You know what I mean? Then they deal with the people. You know what I mean? But the whites always have had to get some type of knowledge from us. So they always had to come with some kind of warm current. You know what I mean? But the truth is that we're the initiators of most of the warm currents. You know? And some of them are smart and they realize, yo, yeah, this is a good way. But it's always a struggle. Look at the Civil War. That's an economic struggle. That's not a slavery struggle. It's an economic struggle. The North is like, yo, that slavery shit is played out, man. You know, they're all gonna kill you, and we got machines to do this shit now. You know, and we don't even have to have niggers on the machines because we don't want to trust niggers on the machine. We have our children on the machine because they don't give a fuck. White people hate themselves. You don't think that this weak and wicked lifestyle, being weak, and then it promotes wickedness. It promotes wickedness with everything. You don't show love to your own children.
Mm-hmm.
These industrials, the first industrial laws were against having children in there.
That's right.
That wasn't black children, that's white kids.
Mm-hmm. Dying.
Machines that they're just learning how to use, though. Kids chopping ham off and shit. All that kind of shit. The mines, when they go mining, though. Yeah, I had my son mining there when he was 10 years old and shit. Yeah, and your child is dead at 30. You know what I'm saying? Next life.
I was mentioning the Black Holocaust guy, War Correspondent
Yeah.
Mel Jones. That's right.
White people don't got love for themselves. You know what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
That's why I'm like,
That's why
you
you
know,
don't be saying nothing
yeah.
because everything he said.
You know what I'm saying with Malcolm X, right? When he used to say, yo, go teach your own, though. That's a real thing.
Mhm.
That's how white students like, yo, you don't have to show and prove yourself to black folk. You know what I'm saying? Go show them white folk, black folk that you're a righteous man, whatever like that. You know, you do your best you can. You know what I'm saying? But you want a real job? Go amongst your own people. Try to teach your family and shit like that.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? At least you get practice. Yeah, most of us, we fail with a lot of our family though. They're like, yo, they're still, you know, I got family I love though. Like they're real. They got love. They'll go for bat for you. They'll kill for you. All that kind of shit though. But then they're still sizzling that bacon. And I'll be like, nigga, like, you know what I mean? I'm telling you, that's swine though, man. It's swine. You know, and I'm Puerto Rican though. Niggas think that's a part of the lifestyle though. You know what I mean? Like, yo, I got salsa songs about fucking swine. Like, you know, salsa niggas sing songs about swine. Like this song's called El Lechon, you know, and they're singing about the fucking swine. Like, I'm serious.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Damn.
They got songs about the swine. Like El Gran Combo. Like everybody's talking about El Gran Combo. They got songs called The Swine and like how niggas love the swine. This is what we love during Christmas time. This is swine time. Like, niggas is crazy. I'm like, niggas, you know, niggas is crazy. You know?
I love the
Yeah.
music. That's so much the lyrics, but the music.
Yes. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's what I'm saying though. Like, niggas got songs about swine though. You know what I mean? I'm like, damn, man. I'd be like, I'd be feeling foul. Like, yo, they have to fuck it up with this one. Like, yeah. But that's the thing though. You know what I'm saying? It's all of these contradictions. You know what I mean? Contradictions. The difference between contradiction and hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is that you know the truth and you do otherwise. Contradiction is like, listen, they won't accept it and they'll label me wrong, but this is what I am. You know what I'm saying? Right? You don't think that I go out in society that people are like, man, he doesn't have to call himself a black man. He says he's a black man. That shit is crazy. No, you're Puerto Rican though. Yeah, you're black, but you're not really, you know what I mean? Like, right? So I have to stay into this. I have to, because of Puerto Rican, so I have to stay into this weird vortex. Like, I'm not really this, I'm not really that, like, you know, forever, you know what I mean? But the oppressor, the Spaniard, was half original because he was a devil doing devilishment, but he had original Moorish blood. That's what the Spanish Inquisition is about. Nigga, today, you Catholic now.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I don't give a fuck if you're olive skin, whatever the fuck you want to go. You're not dealing with that Muslim shit no more.
Mm-hmm.
It's either exile or death.
Yeah.
No,
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so they left. You know what I mean? A lot of the people went on that dangerous trip to America because they were like, yo, you know what though? I'll just take the trip here. You know what I mean?
My chances.
Right? And so they have a brutality. They have brutality that they were taught, that they saw. So you have people that are scarred by brutality, and then they come here They say, oh, these people are mad peaceful though. I could brutally enslave them, this and that. It becomes a thing. You know? The only reason that the British took over what the Spaniards had and took over more top notch is because they were more organized. Their accounting was better. Literally, that's really the reason. You know? Spaniards were a little sloppy with that. You know? But this whole shit is crazy. So we're all conditioned to shit. We're all conditioned. So it's like, how do we make the choices of how we condition? You know what I mean? That's why I said, look, today's math, knowledge God. You gotta knowledge yourself. How are you the God? You know what I'm saying? Like when you make your name, you've conditioned yourself.
That's right.
My name is Sunez. It's Savior of the universe now, shows and proves the equality of knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Son is. But it's also written that way. So so-called Latino hears it, he's like, oh, that nigga God, and he's, you know what I mean? A black man that's not, he don't know the Latinos is the true living. He's like, oh shit, that nigga's just, oh shit, you know what I mean? I didn't know it was this, what original man meant, you know what I mean? Because I told it on both sides, so you know what I mean? I'm from a neighborhood that didn't have it, right? Sunset Park, niggas didn't have the knowledge there. That's not the heart of Medina, right? I call it the lung of Medina, it had no air, you know? They didn't have it there. So I'm in a place that they didn't have it though. They were the enemy, God bodies, you know. They're like, yeah, they're familiar. They're just enemies.
True shit, true.
Right? They're enemies. You know? I used to have Puerto Ricans come to me, yo, why you with them enemies and shit like that? I said, hold on. Sit down. You know what I mean? Tell them though. You know what I mean? Because and you got to now. Because now you're teaching because of a dangerous situation. Because now you gotta teach him because now this nigga thinks I'm a gang, and now he thinks I'm his enemy on some gang shit. Nah. Now we need to teach. Now you need to teach. Because ain't no way I'm walking down the street though, I'm not doing no crime, nothing. You're not gonna fucking kill me because I'm not doing no crime. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right? Get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Right? Yeah. Right? But I was also one of the gods, right? People know who he is. I was a God Day son, and he was like, man, amped right there. He was like, yo, the gods, we're the owners of the universe. We walked on the block with Bloods. And I said, oh yeah, you owners of the universe? Not here, not here. And they was about to pull out. The guy was all hyped. You know, when you hype with the knowledge and you're not really, I said, hold on. Brother, we're the true and living gods. Like we teach that the black man is God, and we're, brother just learned that, so he's hype off of it and everything like that. We mean no disrespect to what hustle you got going here.
No shit.
You know what I mean? Right? And it's like, and I just, so we had to teach him like, yo, we're teaching that all the original man is God. He just has to have a knowledge of himself. So you too are the true and living God. We're not the true and living God over you. We're teaching that the black man is the true and living God.
That's right.
And he was like, okay, I can see that. He literally put his joint away. You know what I mean? But this is what I'm talking about. Like, the dangerous situations with the way that you live and the things that you proclaim. You know what I mean? So you got to know what you're doing.
That's right.
You got to know what you're doing.
That's right.
You know, everything is real. Everything is real. You know what I mean? Everything is real. You know? Let's see what we got here. AJ Saba said, hustle and flow isn't a parody. I live in Tennessee. Pimps are really corny like that. And I would say that they became like that. You know what I'm saying? When you lower the standard of anything, people think that's the innovation. That's the thing that people that sell things to you, they figured out. That it's not, you just sell a new product, but a new product doesn't have to be better. It could just be different.
Right.
And this kind of different, a lower standard is easier to make. You know what I mean? Than a higher standard that's harder to make. You know what I mean? Nobody goes, we did the music, but what if we get better musicians? Nobody does that. Nobody sells a record that way. They generally sell something to you. They're like, what if we get the most out of it? They sell you a product, right? And they sell you something really good. Like I tell people, when you get vegan, you buy vegan stuff, and you say, yo, this is my product. You do shit right and exact. You be eating that shit for about 4 months, read the label again. Because after they start making that money with the best quality product, they go start chasing it with some cheap shit in it, and it might not even be vegan anymore. You know what I'm saying? You really have to look at stuff. So it's like everything you got to do the knowledge to. You know what I'm saying? Every fucking thing, and it never stops. But with the hustle and flow shit, you know what I mean? It set a standard like that was okay. It's basically like Trap Saturday Night Fever. You know what I mean? Right?
Trap Saturday Night Fever.
It really is. It's their Saturday Night Fever. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's the cinematizing of a very diluted music that has very little innovation. Because after Hustle and Flow, there's not really much new that they've added to it. You know what I mean? People just making the beat more droning. They might add more bass to it. They might more elongate certain things, right? But right? So it's not really. You know? In fact, and look, why do they use that word trance too? Because it becomes more. The flows become more robotic. What could be more droning? What, you know? Yeah, I see, right? You see brothers all the time. Now you see young brothers walking around and shit like that, and they're rapping. We used to be saying like actual words though. Now girls are all like, oh, look, he's rapping and shit like that. And he's like, yo, nigga sounds special needs though. They sound special needs. I'm like, this nigga sound like a little bit, off base here. Like, is he okay? Like,
Is he okay?
back in the day, like, right, when we used to see a brother rap, it's like, yo, is he trying to tell me something? Like, like when you rap, like, you be like, yeah, I'm fucking killing nigga, back the fuck up. And you're like, yo, is this nigga talking to me? Oh, no, I know that song. He's just rapping a song. You know what I mean? But they were saying something. I don't even know how to react. I don't know what he said. You know what I mean? He's like,
I just say 3 words and then the rest is just unaudible sound.
Yeah.
Like, is he conscious right now? Is he on drugs or something? Like, what's going on?
Because it's like this, right? We made music we learned how to make music with instruments, right? And then we innovated by making our own way of doing it. That's jazz, really.
Right.
But then you don't have instruments anymore. So jazz starts to die off as far as the culture of daily life.
Right.
And you get people that play music with instruments, but they don't know how to use them, right? They don't know how to use them. That's where you get stuff like salsa. It was very wild and everything, but they didn't know how to play them as refined as like a lot of the Cuban musicians and Puerto Rican musicians in Puerto Rico that were in conservatories. So you get ideas like, where they go on, like, let's go into a small, tiny club on Jerome, and we'll go in with 3 trumpets. And we have like 4 percussion instruments, because you got conga, bongo, timbales, and all the vegetables, maracas, all that kind of stuff, guido, right? That's a lot of percussion. The piano is a percussive instrument in salsa, because you're banging. It's a rhythm instrument, right?
Yes.
Then you got the horns, and you're bringing 3 trombones into a small club. What you get is a blaring sound. It blares. You know what I'm saying? It's like you just blared throughout the whole thing. You know what I mean? Did you ever, like, for some years, the Roots used to travel. Instead of playing bass, they would play a tuba. That's how much bass those wind instruments have, like one tuba. You know what I mean? So imagine, it looked weird too, like Black Thought's rapping and then a tuba comes on, like next to him, brother with a tuba. But the shit had bass, like the shit knocks. So imagine 3 trombones, and you still have a bass man. You still have an upright bass. That shit is crowding everything. It's noisy as fuck. You know what I'm saying? These are innovations of people that don't know music, that they think of ideas and then they made them work. You know what I'm saying? Because if you learn music, you would like, nah, it won't work. The acoustics, but it has like a punk rock feel, which is also a thing that was going on then too. Like be loud and violent. You know what I mean? And it worked. You know what I'm saying? It was, especially with like people like Lavo, that they were talking about things that Puerto Ricans didn't embrace, like being Jibaro. Like I'm a hick and I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? He used to say, I'm not singing in English. Fuck that shit. I'm not doing that shit. He made it like it was crossovers, like Boogaloo and stuff, where you would sing funk in English and Spanish. He was like, I'm not singing that English shit though. Fuck that. Like, he was like that, and he was doing his own shit. It was all rebellious, right? All of this shit becomes music with people that don't know how to play music, but they're still using instruments. Then you take out the instruments, what do you get? Well, let's go take music, and you get hip hop. But then if you don't let people take the music, you don't let them sample, then if they didn't learn how to play music, then they have to try to make music out of whatever's in that machine. You see what I'm saying? And so they make melodies without knowing melody. And you get the South. Enter the South. Right? Because what was shit that blew up? You get simple melodies, you know, like all shit like that. Or you get melodies that are known that could be a song because you sample a melody that is so popular, you don't even know who made it. Like that Nelly.
Right.
Those are nursery rhymes. No matter how much he tries to like explain them though, it's fucking pop.
Right.
What you did. Like you don't take a nursery rhyme and make it, you know what I mean? So all that stuff, like you see the way things go down. We make innovations and they cut off the roads.
Right.
You know, they cut off the roads. Like, no, you can't sample like that because we're making a real music out of that.
Right.
When you know, when you produce though, you're doing post arrangement, which is a very vital part of what a lot of music was already doing. So you know, let's put it together. A lot of jazz musicians were sampling already. When Miles Davis did Sketches of Spain, it was an appreciation from Rodrigo something, I forgot his name. And he brought that record and said, yo, we gotta do something with this. What does that sound like? Somebody come in the studio with a record and say, yo, we gotta do something with this. And so Sketches of Spain is his version of that. And he basically is improvising off that. You know what I mean? And when they asked him, he said, this ain't no European music, this is black music and he knew the history. You know, he knew that's why Miles was so offensive to people, white people. It's because he spoke the truth. He knew what he was doing. You know what I mean? But he would constantly sample in that kind of way, or even interpolate stuff like classical music and things like that. So there was already sampling. Arrangements, a great, because I love this album. Charles Mingus's Black Saint and the Sinner Lady. Beautiful album, incredible, intense album. He was mixing and matching things in the studio to what people recording. When Miles was doing his funk era, he was doing like a lot of hip hop. He would just turn on the recorder and let people play. Just like you do, so yo, just rap. Just whatever we get. You know what I mean? And then those long records are just pieces of like sessions that go on a whole day. You know what I mean? So a lot of the innovations of hip hop is us looking back and really studying the culture to find out what can we do. You know what I mean? And so what it is, they take it away. They make it a product where, okay, you have to pay for that sample. You have to pay for this. You have to pay for that. And now you can't use your own people's musical history.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's why I love all this music now, because it's so underground that like you can't find the sample because you can't even find my shit. Fuck you. You know what I mean? And now it's so overloaded. How can, like we mentioned Rock Marcy, he got samples galore.
Yo, crazy.
You find his sample though, how are you going to charge him?
Right.
You don't even know where to charge it.
Right.
He's independent. Who the fuck are you going to, who's going to help you find it? It's like his own block. He sells his music like he was on the block. You can't find the origin of this shit.
No.
So even if you find the sample, who are you going to charge? Where are you going to run me for the money? And that's why we respect a lot of the people on the street have better entrepreneurial sense than anything, because you don't get taught that in school. They definitely don't teach you how to make your own. And that's why we always look to criminals, because they're the only ones that know how to do their own capitalism, their own way of making their own money. I know, I have a business degree. They didn't teach me that.
Oh, wow.
The last class before you graduate is an entrepreneurial course where you make your own make-believe business. It literally is a fancier Monopoly. It's completely useless in real fucking life.
Oh, shit.
You know what I mean? And that's when I was totally disillusioned. I was like, yo, I got this degree and it is trash. You know what I mean? Because it taught me nothing about how to, like, what do I want to do and how can I make sell it? It was just, how do you be a worker for someone else's firm and things like that. That was just that.
I went to business high school.
Yeah.
Same
Unless you go into the college saying, I am going to be this entrepreneur, and on my own time, I'm going to study their materials to be that, then the college is becoming your library. That's when it becomes useful. You know what I mean? But if you go in there just like these classes will teach me to do this, I ain't gonna teach you shit. Not like the way the history I have, all the stuff I've sold, I've learned it from people that are off the street that make music now. All of my best economic advice I got from hustlers and dealers, not from the school I went to. And I got zero mentorship on that level. You know what I mean? Zero. You know what I mean? So it's all these things that we wonder why we see criminality so much in like the music and the things like that. There's a reason for that, you know? And then if we get conditioned the wrong way, even in our own righteousness, we could look down and say, oh, those kids, they just talk about this and that. But we have to be able to extract the best part. You know what I mean? You know, this is why like a lot of the gods is a great example. A lot of the gods that rap, they're willing to keep a lot of the hustling ethos, the criminal ethos that they lived and throw them continually in the music. Because it's a way to draw the youth. It's a way to say, listen, this is the bad stuff, but look, this is what you gotta extract out of it. Because a lot of kids' version of lessons on business are actually studying the history of how a dealer, a hustler became an artist, and how they ended up selling vinyl, and how they ended up selling these records. Because a lot of people don't want to admit the innovations of shorter albums, right? Hustling out albums quickly, making them 20 minutes or 30 minutes, right? Fitting them on a smaller vinyl, getting them out. These are innovations of the same guys that were coming from the street. So when we look at them, the Rock Marcy's, SD Nax, all of these guys with the progressive music, Starker, all of these, right? Al Divino, right? They're the ones coming up with these ideas. Because they're thinking of it like, yo, the only way to survive, though, is that we give them lots of product. We make it good, but we have to give them a lot. You know what I'm saying? People won't like it. They'll feel like it's an overload. But what if we give them a whole 2-hour album, though? They'll have heard it once, though, and then we won't get any more purchases. And we don't have the mass forums to continue to shop this all year round, right? You don't have a mass forum to be on shows or be in ads for the rest of the year. So how could you make one? Right. These are the innovations, though. You know? But these are things the Father taught us, like the teachings, the lessons that you get from the dirt and the grind. And how do you take the best part and make it a righteous thing? You know what I mean? Because we're not learning this anywhere else.
True.
Anywhere else. You know what I mean? Right? And then while they're doing it, though, it's the gods bringing a lot of artistry back in it, too. You know what I mean? Right? Because they hustled the sample back into the music. You know? If we flood the market from our own way, nobody could find us. They can't. It's like, you know, it's like the low lives, Million Man Rush. You rush the store with 1,000 dudes, the security guards can't get you. And they're not, because it's like, I ain't getting paid that much to get it, right? They have to give up. They have to give up. It's the same thing, you know, as a collective, you know? It's a lot of shit, you know what I mean? It's a lot of shit. Yeah, so this class ends at 10, so we are done for this session. I did answer the questions that were all, email me, Sunez97@gmail. That's what you too got. Email me, because there's a lot of materials I give. I give out books, everything. So they have a whole digital library with me. You get lessons, all that kind of stuff. And just communicate with me. So definitely email me, you know, at that, you know. And I got to ride back to Savior's Island too, so I got to get going.
Shoot.
Shoot. All right. So until next time. All right. Peace.
Peace.